Did you hit it? John, we're
Dude,
we're not.
we're live.
No, we're not.
It says on my end we're live.
Well, I guess that's our intro. It does. It's not showing me we're live at all.
Well, tell you what, vamp for a minute, and I'll bring it up here on. My
Yeah.
phone.
Now it's showing me that we're live. That's really weird.
So, all right. I guess we're not starting soon. We're starting right now.
Yeah, we're starting right now.
Oh, right. And I bring the fucking stream up, and it's echoing. Wait. Oh, all right. I guess we're not starting soon. Okay. Boy, I'm acting like we're acting like a couple rookies today. But anyway, over to our fearless leader Nakasuchi.
Yeah. So, what's up, y'all? Yeah, I have COVID. My brain is not functioning. Obviously, I'm not going to be here, so I let John hit the live button instead of doing it myself. And obviously, there must have been a delay for me seeing it. So, what up, you guys? I wanted to do a quick update. My COVID has taken a serious turn for the worse the last few days. Last night was pretty bad, and today was even worse. I got checked out. I've been released. I have a blood clot, and my breathing was pretty bad. And if it gets bad again, I'm gonna have to go back to the hospital. But I'm hoping that I will feel better. I think I've been overdoing it. I've been streaming a lot, going into a lot of rooms. A lot of my friends have been telling me to take it easy, and I just, I'm sitting here stuck at home, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but maybe that's what it is. But it's also COVID. It's the way it is. It comes back on you. This is no joke. I plan on doing a COVID video to give my experience on it and how it hit me in the different ways that it has. But I wanted to give an update for all of you guys that have reached out, shown your concern today. I am home and I am fine. I'm about to go to bed. I am exhausted. Lots of medications are running through me right now. So I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to hang around for a few minutes and talk and chat with John here for a few minutes, but we're going to throw the link in the side chat. Please come in and talk with John. And then I'll be taking the day off tomorrow as well, but I do have an edited video that I can put out, that I will be putting out tomorrow instead of doing a live stream. So what's up, John?
So, I already did put the link in the live chat. Mama Atheist, I DM'd you a link. If you're feeling up to it, come on in and talk to us. I DM'd
you. I'll be heading out real soon.
Yeah. And one thing I did want to mention right off the bat, I don't know if he's still live right now. I was over on David Pakman's show, and he was showing a live speech that President Obama was doing about the election. I'm not sure where he was. He was at some rally or whatever. And, if you've, over these close to the last 4 years, if you've forgotten what an actual president sounds like, go over and check that out, because it was quite refreshing, listening to a few minutes of that and hearing a reasonable leader of the free world talking. But I did DM a lot of theists that I know. Hopefully some of them will come in. And there's a lot of people in the chat already. We got 30 people watching. Hey, Maynard, what's up? My brother from another mother, my campaign manager, Peterson Maynard, Saves 2020. As I already mentioned, Mom Atheist, James Hogue is here. Who all else is here? Geo Sam. Hey, what's up, Sam?
Brainbug is here. Brainbug is one of those friends that was telling me to take it easy, and I just kept doing what I was doing. So
yeah, he's got a pretty good head on his shoulders. Get in here, Brainbug. Come in and talk some fucking bugs at us or something, man. Agnostic Pagan Mom is here. Phil Ko, Scott Duke. Here's a new one on me. Phony Beetle Maniacs. Or is that?
They've been around the last couple streams. I've noticed them.
It almost sounded like a Brainbug sock account.
I see Marty. What's up, Marty? I as long as I can improve. I'll be on Marty's channel Monday night. Brand new channel. I'll make sure to plug it. But I'll be debating Skylar Fiction on best Star Trek captain, Kirk or Picard. I've got Kirk, so yeah. Hopefully that can still happen. As long as I get better, I'm gonna get better, yo.
What? Oh, that's supposed to be this Friday.
Monday. It'll be Monday night.
Monday. Well, yeah, Marty, make it so. This one guy's here, and he told us when we were, boning everything up at the beginning. He's like, "You live." And
I know that still pisses me off that there was a delay because I didn't hit the live button. My OCD is just going crazy now.
And Jessica 44, and who else is here? That's about it. Sax Calzone, the StreamYard icon is here at the top of the chat as always. So at any rate, just to tell you about how my day went, well, Knock was in the hospital with all kinds of shit hooked up to him and, having a machine breathe for him and that. I went on to Speed of Sound of Gravity's. He was streaming and reviewing some Smoky Saint nonsense, but that wasn't the highlight of the show, but that was fun. And then at one point, Jay Passek came in, and he was sharing a stream where Doubting Thomas was in the room with Smokey, and he was just trolling Smokey like crazy, and not really like talking crazy shit or anything. He was being like real, like he was just saying shit that he knew would trigger Smokey, and it was like he was playing. Had the strings, like Smokey was a marionette. And Doubting Thomas would say like one little sentence, and then Smokey would go off for like 5 minutes, rat roach retard, and at some point I'm going to get Knocked to cut that out. And Todd, you're in the chat. Is it cool if we cut those interactions out of your stream there to make a funny little video? I'm just going to assume Todd says yes on that.
Well, yeah, and I am hoping tomorrow to feel a bit better, and even if I'm feeling like great tomorrow, I'm still gonna take the day off. But I never take the day off. I do plan on going through a lot of the recent open rooms, maybe some old open rooms, if I could breathe, and get a lot of shortcut clips of the conversations to really promote these open rooms. I want to make it a focus. And yeah, that's awesome. Once RJ gets in here, that'll give you somebody to talk to, John, and I can go to bed.
I'm here.
Hi, RJ. How you doing, bud?
Oh, busy day today. I'm going to be debating the idiot Mr. Batman in an hour.
Oh, really?
Oh. Yeah,
I was just looking at the one he did with it's because it's on my turf. Oh, good gravy. I don't have to do any prep on it. It's on dinosaurs and humans coexisting. This is not a good area for anybody to go into because I love dinosaurs. I know dinosaur paleontology has a general interest for decades. So it's not something where I have to go, I'm going to have to study up on this to be able to. No, diddly squat. I have the Psittacosaurids and the Protoceratopsids and the Ceratopsids and the geographical range of those and paleogeography and the British Columbia geological frame, and then also the Amerindians and their interaction with mammoths and all the paleontological material in my head. And I'm going to see how much of it isn't in Mr. Batman's.
Oh, well,
he should have a model to explain it.
It'd probably be zero of the knowledge in your head is in Mr. Batman's head.
Oh, yeah. When Dapper, I was just looking at Dapper Dino's debate with him from a couple months ago, and Dapper couldn't even pin him down on how to define what a dinosaur is. Well, and given the fact that it sounds like Batman is just channeling snippets of creationist literature, Sanford's genetic entropy, Kent Hovind's clams on Mount Everest. I mean, it's just a smorgasbord of crap. I know the basic field of what arguments they're going to make before he even opens his trap. He's never going to be able to bullshit. I'm going to see if he brings up Paluxy. I really would love it if he brings up the Paluxy track.
Well, can I give
a piece of John Morris is even dumping on those. I mean, that's fringe stuff now.
Wait. I just wanted to say something. If I was debating you on that, it would last about 30 seconds because I would just say, man did live with dinosaurs. There's been chickens around ever since we've been around.
So real quick, guys, I'm glad that people have shown up to talk with John. This is his open room. I am going to go to bed. So please have a great conversation and enjoy your night.
Hey, thanks, Knock. We'll see you.
You better get fucking better.
I'm hoping.
You're for me for an hour. Slightly less than an hour.
But y'all have a good night.
RJ, did you ever watch Mr. Batman's debate with Jim Majors?
No, I don't
a
think
month
so.
ago.
Or if I did, it didn't come up. Summarize what that interaction was about?
Honestly, I can't even remember what it was about, and this is why. And a piece of advice, and it's probably not advice because you probably already know it. Mr. Batman will not stay on topic. He will. Did man live with dinosaurs? He's going to go to something that's not even remotely related to that.
That's what he did with Dapper Dino. Yeah, he's going to be a wanderer. My point of, I literally don't even know specified how much time we have, and the very biggest that hasn't been clarified. I don't care. I'll adapt. The main thing is he has to shut up while I'm talking. That's the other area, and then I want to leave as much time as possible for Q&A, which means I want to have as many people in there that can give interesting questions, so that we can go into that in the Q&A part.
Well, Mr. Batman, whenever you do get to the Q&A. He will probably think that you're talking about QAnon.
Hard to tell with him. And of course, he's also a raging homophobe. He's a nutball in so many different ways that there's all of that stuff. But the thing that I've been disappointed with anybody that goes into a debate when they don't know their opponent or their opponent's position, because they're just asking for trouble. Godless Engineer, I just watched the debate that he had, which had exactly that same problem. He's going after somebody that's bringing up topics and he doesn't seem to know about them. Well, then why are you going into a debate on this? You should know the creationist apologetics better than they do. That's the ideal. Yeah. And then also know the science data field. Debating? Oh, I'd have to look up. Oh gosh, it's because I was just checking up on the material because it was a stupid remark. It's just fogged on my brain. No, I don't think it was Maddox. It was somebody else. It was a fairly recent debate, and what the hell was the idiot point that he had brought up? That
was it Otangelo?
No. Again, that's the problem. Everybody does debates, and there's so many different debates going on, and this is like a tag team going on in here. I want to construct a team of people who are collectively able to share material in such a way that those sorts of debate blobs don't happen. That you are always up on what they're going to bring up before they bring it up, and have a ready response to that specific point right off the bat. And that just requires preparation and familiarity, because you know, Leo, and everybody else knows, creationists are not terribly original. They don't trot out usually innovative research.
Well, and I mean, didn't you, RJ, didn't you say last night when you were here that there's like 5 arguments that they have total or something like that?
Oh, well, even less if you want to be picky. Everything is God of the gaps. Heck, you nasty evolutionists can't explain filling the blank. That breaks down to 2 main modes, the natural theology approach, which I also call gee whiz. Ooh, isn't nature complicated? Look how complicated all of this is. And that approach is a testy one, because eventually you start bumping into the details, at which point you start hitting the technical literature that explains things from an evolutionary point of view. And at that point, they tend to kind of back off. So then they go to the big default mode, which is origins or bust. Where did this come from? Where did the life come from? Where did the universe come from? Where did the laws of nature come from? Blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
All of which is a deflection mechanism to keep away from dealing with my go-to issues, therapsids, ALUs in the genome, and all of that kind of stuff. Which,
well, like I've said for years, most of their arguments break down to there is stuff, therefore God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's and the negative aspect is that they don't present a model for it. One of the areas that I'm going to be wanting to see Mr. Batman crash and burn on is that what does the pre-flood world look like? What is the flood events look like? What is the post-flood world? Dinosaurs. How much speciation has taken place within the dinosaur frame between Eden and Ararat? How much speciation, if any, took place after the dinosaurs trundled off of Noah's Ark? Please work out all of this. And I want to know, I want to try to find out where he falls on the parasitical frame, because anybody that studied creationism for a long time from the Duane Gish era, as I have, knows that creationists didn't used to accept plate tectonics. They were deeply opposed to continental drift all the way down into the 1990s, at which point it became like impossible to ignore. And they thought, ooh, catastrophic plate tectonics, super fast. That'll work. Well, the traditionalists tend to think of the pre-flood world as Pangea, whereas if you look at the Creation Museum, they jump back a little and stolen Rodinia as the pre-flood world. And then they argue that Pangea took place post-flood, lickety-split, super fast. And then our place came from that. Well, either one of those is fraught with terror when it comes to trying to deal with the actual geological details. But I'm curious if that
right. I mean, right off the top of my head, when you say that, I think to myself, wait a minute, if Pangea separated after the flood, like what would that have done to the earth in having to go through that, that metamorphosis in such a short period of time?
Yeah, and that would produce physical effects. One of the things that convinced me that the flood couldn't possibly have happened was thinking through what actually would happen in a flood. So you would need to have, you couldn't have airborne volcanic ash. You would find fossil graveyards ubiquitously, not as really rare things, which is what the actual facts are. They've just a handful of ones. There was one that was just, I was fascinated to find that Jonathan Guzman has apparently been backing off of young earth creationism in the last few months. He's gone kind of radio silence on it. And I caught him looking, I was looking at an old debate that he had done back in June, I think. And when I was making comments on it, because I was doing a source check on it, it's going to go in Rock's Volume 2, that he was saying, oh, I disagree with what I was saying. I don't have the opinions I did before. Oh, really? Interesting. Can you be a little clearer on that? What views do you have? But anyway, he was bumping into a set of geological things which can't possibly be crammed into a tight time frame, and one of the deposits, this Howe quarry, that was a new item that has just been popping into the creationist literature. It's about the size of a basketball court. It's not a gigantic fossil graveyard, and they try to give an impression of things, in part because they don't read the primary sources. They're skimming through secondary accounts and book versions and things like that. And that's exactly the problem that you had in creationists from the Duane Gish era. I want to find out more, if possible, what level of parasite Mr. Batman is. What floor is he coming out on?
Well, I still haven't figured out.
I did want to answer a question.
You didn't like that sentence I started.
I know that. I know it's a vain hope. It's like getting Trump to release his tax returns.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what rock he crawled under yet. I haven't figured it out. But there's people in the chat that were asking where's this debate going to take place?
Oh, it's going to be a modern day debate. I don't
debate.
have a link for it yet. James apparently is doing his thesis, so he's had a panic attack. It was going to be a day or two ago, and that changed, and then they switched to Wednesday, and we had to pull it back up because I have my evolution hour that I want to do later on in the day. And then he decided he was too busy even to moderate, so he's got one of his associates doing the moderation. So it's been kind of going tick, 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 one thing down the line. But I'm easy, so long as the camera works and the audio is fine, I'm okay.
Hey, no. Leo said there was something you wanted to address. I think a question in live chat, but I want to throw this up on the stream. Look, you have two very knowledgeable scientific minds here right now. Come on in, Chris Keith, and share your knowledge of evolution.
Oh yeah, junk DNA is fascinating because it's when one of the tropes in creationism, but especially in intelligent design. Jonathan Wells and others is just obsessive about it. And they basically overstate their case because huge swaths of the genome are not doing anything. And all those retrotransposons and ALUs, the junk DNA hasn't gone away, and ENCODE has had to back off from a lot of their assertions as well, as Dan Stern Cardinale has pointed out.
So, yeah, I mean, and the other thing that boggles my mind is it seems like a lot of these people that, want to deny that evolution is an actual thing, they point to things like, well, here, this biological thing, it hasn't changed in, millions of years. Like, how can it be, they think that all, evolutionary change is going to be apparent on the outside. It has to change something about the outside of the biological being or whatever it is. And that's just not true.
Here's the one that's interesting. DNA phylogenies, by definition, will always date back before the fossil record. Think about it. Every single thing that's going to produce morphological variation is building on genetic substrates that are ticking and expanding long before it reaches the stage that it has an overt morphological effect. So any of those things tracking those genes are going to date back before. That's why bat phylogenies indicate that something's going on back in the Cretaceous, even though the earliest bats that we find are about 15 million years after the KT.
So, and as everybody knows, according to the Bible, bats are birds anyway. So,
yeah, I am charitable about a lot of those things because I don't make a big deal out of it. The same way the thing about the pi being 3, that's also a tendentious one. I'm willing to give them a lot on that. I try to triage my criticisms of the Bible to go for things that are really serious. So the Matthew-Luke train wreck on the Messianic credentials, that's serious. The sun and the moon and the stars being made on day 4, where they crib from the Enuma Elish Babylonian myths, that's serious bit. That's way more important than pi or bats as birds.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like I'm watching one of those old dubbed kung fu movies because you're in real time with us, with your voice. With the
audio's out of sync.
But the video's out of sync,
Yeah, it's coming in okay. I'm sick at my end, but, just remember, kids, it's amazing that we're doing this at all. This is like wacky science fiction shit from somebody from the 1950s like me. Do you realize how amazing this is?
Yeah. Well, and, it's funny because somebody they didn't say it directly to me, but I was watching another video with a few people, and this person had said to someone, because they were talking about science, and they said, "No, I'm not a science denier. I'm not an atheist like you." So the import of that was, "No, I'm a Christian and I'm a Bible believing Christian, and the Bible is scientifically accurate." I mean, is essentially what they were saying, and I just, no.
Now, and that spreads out. One of the things that I always like to do when I'm dealing with an anti-evolutionist, don't immediately assume that they're a young Earth creationist, because most of them won't be. But in certain demographics, they may be. So that means you have to kind of triage in on diagnostic things. If they start going on radiometric dating, whoa, then you've got a young Earth creationist. So that means that you get the map of time issue to try to pin them down. If they talk about the origin of life, you want to clarify, when was the origin of life? Can you be a little more specific? And some are just nasty little wafflers. Oh, there are creationists that it's like pulling teeth to get them to admit that they're young Earth creationists, because they realize that doesn't necessarily look good. So they want to keep it hidden. And I have greater respect for young Earth creationists who at least have the courage of their stupid convictions, rather than trying to keep them kind of hidden away. That's why I have problems with John Mark Reynolds at the Discovery Institute, Paul Nelson at the Discovery Institute. Both of them are young Earth creationists, but boy, you'd never know it by hearing about what their apologetics are. They're always passed off as intelligent design advocates.
Mm-hmm.
So
a rewording of it to make it sound more sciencey.
And then, so Leo, what was that? There was
Michael.
a question you said.
Well, no, I was just going to point out that Philosophish had asked about the debate and
Oh, okay.
thinking that it was on RJ's channel, and I was going to specify that it was on Modern Debate.
Oh, I'm also going to wing it today by trying to do the YouTube approach by myself to see if I can get the thing going, because the last 2 Evolution hours I had that were hosted didn't end up on my channel. They ended up in a cloud channel that I finally, Stephen Early was watching the show, tracked it down, and he found the website where that Ghost YouTube channel that has episodes 163 and 164 are on. I'll put all the information on it in, but problem is I'm not able to edit them, so I'm not able to put my sources in or anything like that. I have to have them on my channel to be able to do that. So I'm still wondering what the hell has gone wrong. I don't know. I'm old fart. I'm just trying to make sense.
Yeah, you got to find a 12-year-old to fix that for you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no shit.
exactly. I mean, I remember dial telephones with party lines.
Ooh. Tell me if you remember this. Tell me if you remember this, RJ. Remember the old dial phones where you could dial the number by tapping it out on the receiver, like on the button?
Oh, that would depend on which exchanges you had. Some of the old exchanges you could do that with. I don't know that I lived in any areas that had that kind of an exchange system, but yeah, that basically it converted everything into a sound bit, and you could replicate that just by treating it like a Morse code that you did by tapping on the phone.
Well, no, when I'm talking, not the actual buttons themselves, where you, like, I'm talking about like back when the old.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, the thing where you
hang it up. Yeah, tapping on the buttons where you hang it up.
By the way, people in the chat.
I don't think all exchanges work that way. I think there were varying systems involved.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
must have lived
And
in
then
the area.
I'm too young to remember like stick telephones or anything like that.
I'll be right back.
I researched a lot of history of telephones for a historical novel that I was working on years ago, so I'm kind of vaguely familiar with the sequence of events as to how it gradually market penetrated into everything and then became an ubiquitous item. But the same thing happened with telegraph lines. We don't live in a world where businesses have a forest of telegraph lines coming out of their companies to communicate to people. There was a thing, I think it was in New York or Chicago, one of the two, had a whole vast network of subterranean pneumatic tubes that communicated from one business to another. And they can still see the fossils of those in the basements of places, but that hasn't been used for decades.
I don't know why the pneumatic tube never caught on as a means of travel.
Well, it's been a long-standing one. One of the first plans for the New York subway system was an air-driven pneumatic system, but I think it's precisely because of the amount of pressure and things involved. They didn't have. They had heavy equipment. You would have to make things very lightweight. The pumping systems involved. It was just pushing the envelope. In the same way they took so long to build airplanes, not because they couldn't figure out kind of how to do it, but because they could never build engines light enough to be able to not weigh the aircraft down. Every attempt to build a steam-powered airplane was just a mess. Whereas it was a motorcycle guy, Glenn Curtis, who built really lightweight engines, and also the bicycle guys that had access to relatively lightweight engines that were able to crack the flying thing.
Okay, RJ, the biggest clue of why pneumatic tubes didn't take off as a form of travel is because what does it say on the thing at the bank, right? It says don't put any change in that vessel that's going to go through the air tube because it can't handle the weight of the change. So a person, I mean, unless you just escaped from like a cave after 10 years, you're not going to be able to travel that way.
It's the same thing with Arthur C. Clarke's elevator to space, that theoretically it should be able to work if you can build a cable that is so strong that it won't break over tens of thousands of miles, and yet so lightweight that its own mass won't pull it down to the earth.
Actually, they found a way around that. Instead of trying to have a cable that basically holds the thing and you're basically swinging it like a mace, right? You're swinging around the earth like a mace. Instead of doing that, what they would do is have two lines, right, that go up, and it has a loop elbow at the top, and it comes back down, and it has a loop elbow underneath the ground, and it goes back up. And by constantly running either a thick, dense fluid or bendable like cable through there constantly, the momentum of that would keep the elevator in space or keep the.
That's cool, and it still goes out to one of the Lagrange points, right?
No, not even to the Lagrange point. It's just to.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Low Earth orbit, because basically you're throwing so much weight up.
Don't hold your breath that that's going to happen. It's like fusion power. It's always 10 years away.
Right, but that's with current technology. We could do that. It's just like, right. People say, "Oh, you couldn't go do all this stuff in space, right? You couldn't build something that big." Well, would you say you can't build 100 million houses? We did that over 200 years in America. So if you have enough time and you're willing to put enough effort into it, you can do it.
So real quick, I need to jump in. And I'm glad I'm monitoring the chat on my phone because for some reason it didn't pop up on StreamYard here. But thank you so much, Maynard, for your $20 tip. Unfortunately, without Knock being here, I have no way to access that website where they show up at. So if you left a comment, Knock will have to read it next time he's here. But as you know, Knock's your brother. He very much appreciates you. Thank you for that.
There's also something, and I hope he comes in the chat. He said he might later, because Chris Keith is talking about things that intelligent design predicted. Intelligent design has never predicted anything because they have no data on which to base.
I said, get in here. If you're gonna make claims like that, get in here and throw those claims at these two gentlemen that are here, and even three gentlemen.
Here's the Achilles heel for intelligent design. Intelligent design systematics. Is anything related to anything? And if not, why not? 0 intelligent designers have ever even taken a stab at systematics. At least the younger creationists dive off the baraminology board into the empty pool. But literally no intelligent designer has ever tackled that and never will, because they don't have a working map of time in their head. It's just a fog bank. I've interacted with Steve Meyer when he was here at Whitworth years and years ago, before he skedaddled off to the Discovery Institute officially. And he was just as vague as a sack of hammers on these things. It just doesn't connect up that, and they're all like that. You'll never get that. So that's their crucifix for their thing. You just put up. Tell us what's related to. Another one would be ask them how many design events there were during the Mesozoic.
I want to go ahead and dangle a little carrot out in front of the creationists. All right, so don't worry. You can come in here and have a conversation with James here, Richard. So you can have a conversation with James, right? Or you can have a conversation with Leo Filius, or you can have a conversation with myself.
I don't bite right? much,
and none of us are professionals in this area. We just do it for fun. As a matter of fact, RJ, you're not a evolutionist, right? You're not like a paleontologist or anything, right? You were
I have a BA.
Your major was in history, right?
I got involved in it. Yeah, I just apply the same methods. I'm really curious about science, and I was annoyed at people making asses of themselves in anti-evolutionism. And so I started diving in and researching, and one thing led to another. And I started the Troubles in Paradise project, and gradually got to the point where I'm doing now. The late SciStrike was the one that said, hey, RJ, you really need to do videos. You need to do YouTube stuff. And so I started doing that because of him. One thing leads to another.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, Chris Keith says he's at work. He'll be coming in a little while. And what he says there is, I will come in. I don't mind coming in. He forgot to put the word mind in there. So,
well, I'll be gone in here in about 20 minutes, no matter what, because I got to prepare for my debate.
Well, I mean, actually, from hearing you describe the debate, I don't really know how much prep time you need. But
you need to set
well, yeah, I said this. I prefer.
Brain bug. Yeah, go ahead. But your audio's really low.
My audio's low. Let me see.
Yeah.
How's that? Is that better?
Oh, there it is now. That's better.
That is
okay.
better. Yep.
Yeah, my stuff was all shifted around. Anyway, I was going to say, force him to define dinosaur before you even get started. That should be a prerequisite to say what are you calling a dinosaur.
Well, we already know from a Dapper Dino that Batman doesn't know how to define a dinosaur, and so it's a kind of an interesting little trail that's already been gone on. I have my own particular set of that I'm going to be playing with, and I know what the creationist literature is probably better than Mr. Batman does. I know exactly what he could have stolen or not. So I'm tactically phrasing questions in such a way that he's going to have to think on his own. And that's usually not a pretty sight when it comes to creationists, when they have to actually wing it.
Well, it's definitely not a pretty sight when it comes to Mr. Batman, because I'm actually perplexed that
At all.
to debate you.
Oh, well, it came up via James at the Modern Day Debate. He was saying that Mr. Batman wanted to debate on the issue of dinosaurs coexisting with human beings. And I said, sure, because it's not an area that I have to do any boning up on. I already know both the creationist arguments in great detail. I debated Standing for Truth on that exact subject, last year, I think. And he was doing the same claptrap tropes. Back then, I had to practically get him kicking and screaming to bring up the book that he was relying on, which was a pile of nothing. I think it was Nance's book, that he was just parasitically copying all the material out of, and it never fact checked the damn thing. But SFT is a data fiddler. He's in that Dwayne Gish style that he wants to sound cool. So he's memorized the jargon and he's memorized the technical papers and all of that. Batman is not at that level. So I'm still trying to figure out where he's coming in. How far down in the bottom feeder Kent Hovind land is he running at?
Well, my prediction is at some point Mr. Batman will share his screen and play an episode of the Flintstones.
He'll probably want to bring up the kinetic entropy and soft tissue. He's done that before. He may or may not bring up the Cambodian stegosaur or the Ica stones. I would be delighted if he brings up the Paluxy tracks, because that's a landmine. But it's going to be, he won't be able to offer any paleontological evidence that any dinosaur or any critter believed exclusively known in the Mesozoic has ever been found in any geological horizon in any way, shape, or form that relates to any of our Homo genus. Period. None, because there aren't any. And creationists would have brought them up by now if they had existed.
Well, in the spirit of how James does things, he wants us to be prepared. If any creationist or intelligent designer would like to know what some of RJ's arguments will be before he makes them, you can just go ahead and spend a little bit of that money that you normally put into tithing.
What the fuck just happened?
Whoops. He's been raptured.
He's been around. Yeah, God stopped him from talking sense. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, there he goes.
There he is.
Okay.
You're back, Puff.
Back
He's
again.
gone.
There he goes.
The hell.
StreamYard is very pesky.
I did want to say,
if his system is anything like mine, that's not at all unusual that we suddenly go bing and we're gone.
Yeah, so Puff,
literally.
just so you know, right now it's telling me your devices are not connected. So that's why your box is still in here, but it's saying device. Okay, there we go. He's back again.
One thing that I've been doing while he's coming in, one thing I've been doing in my debates is to preface by saying, rocks were there. Oh, tell me what you think of it.
It's pretty.
Here's Philosophish's guess as to what Mr. Batman will say if you, as Brian suggested, ask him for his definition of dinosaur.
Little tiny book.
Yeah, it's thin. It's like a Reader's Digest, really. You could get through it in an afternoon, I think, Mr. Batman, and you would have all of his arguments ready to go, man. It's just right there. So I know you do a ton of reading. This will be like an afternoon for you. So, just a little brushing up, you went through the whole Bible. This book's way smaller. So
the synagogue, yes.
The Bible, pretty thick book.
Hold on, Leo. Yeah, he is okay. He went to the hospital today. They had to put him on blood thinners
piece of shit.
Hot
What?
mic.
Hey, can you let me finish before you do that? Yeah, they had to.
Well, no. What did I do? I was just holding it up.
Somebody said something. I don't know.
Somebody said something in the middle of when I was talking, but at any rate, Yeah, the synagogue, he's all right. He went to the hospital for several hours today. They have got him on blood thinners because they found a blood clot in his leg, and they had him on the respirator for like 6 hours or so. And then we lost
There
RJ.
goes RJ.
I don't know if
That's
he'll
it.
be back because he's got about a half an hour till his debate starts. So,
His internet's like that too. He's in and out all the time.
and StreamYard is just not a really good platform. I'm sorry, it's just not, and that's why when my channel gets up and going, I won't be using it.
No, what are you going to use?
Google
Streamlabs.
Meets and OBS. Google Meets and OBS Studio. I don't have access to Streamlabs, which is strictly on Windows and Linux, but you can use OBS Studios on a Mac. And since I now have my MacBook, I will be utilizing Google Meets for the streaming capture, and then OBS Studios to do the actual streaming to YouTube.
Oh, so you're not using Streamlabs now? Okay, I thought that's
Yeah.
the last time.
I was
talked
originally
to you about it.
going to, because I could download the Android Streamlabs app on my Pixelbook Go, which is a laptop that I'm using now, but it has no flexibility like you would expect it to have, because it's an app, not the actual program. So I couldn't do fancy backgrounds. I couldn't do, moving. I couldn't even do screen capture on it. So there was no point.
There is still a way to use Google Hangouts. I know people that still use that. I don't know how they do it.
That's what Google Meet is. Google Hangout got repurposed into Google Meet.
No, I'm not talking about Google Meet. You can still use the old Google Hangouts.
I probably don't want to do that.
What's that?
I said I don't know if I did it because Google Meet is just faster. You can do screen share on Google Meet, but not on Google Hangout, and you can have more. You can have up to 32 people in a stream on Google Meet, whereas like Google Hangout, I think it's still like 12 or 13 or 14 or something like that.
Yes, I just heard from RJ. He said connection tanked. I hope that doesn't happen to him during his debate, because
I don't think it will. James tends to use Zoom, so.
Well, and I'll tell you what, Mr. Batman should be thoroughly eviscerated by the end of that.
Oh yeah,
But
that'll be worse than what I did in F.
If you
So,
watch RJ's stuff, though, his internet connection, his stream drops all the time. Is my audio still really low?
Yeah.
No.
A little.
It's
low.
lower, but it's not super low.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not as low as it was when you first popped in. Before we started, I got a notification, and G-Man just put out a video, why atheism leads to immorality. And, that title just tickles me. I mean, I don't know how he's going to make that argument, and I really don't care, because he's about as logical as a wet sock. But, I just want to, throw that out to all of you. Like, does that follow at all logically that you can say atheism leads to immorality?
I think it would be hard for anyone to argue any particular worldview inherently leads to a more moral framework or socio-ethical framework. I think with some of them, you might be able to make some sort of anecdotal argument that it does, like say somebody who favors democracy over like monarchy or fascism. You might be able to argue that holding such a political ideology inherently leads to a more moral framework, but you wouldn't be able to really do so in a thoroughly empirical manner. So I don't think any particular worldview or ideology is inherently more moral than any other.
Yeah, as a social species, it's natural for us to have some sense of what we would call morality and altruism for our fellow man. And it's only been recently that's extended to all of mankind. It was very tribal for thousands of years before that you could treat another group of people as if they were a different species, and it was considered completely moral to kill like an indigenous population because they weren't the same as you. It's only been recently we've kind of enveloped them into our sense of morality as a human species.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very much true. Welcome Chris and
Marty.
Marty.
Welcome, Marty. And Chris, since Chris just popped in the room, I'd like to,
thank you for having me.
Lines of what I was just saying. So, Chris, do you think atheists are inherently immoral?
I'm sorry I missed that little last part you guys were talking about before I jumped in.
Well, because I was mentioning that G-Man put a video out, I got a notification of before we started, and the title of it was "Why Atheism Leads to Immorality." So my question to you, based on that, and we were talking about it here for the past few minutes, is: do you, as a Christian, feel that atheists are inherently immoral?
Oh no, not at all. Actually, we had a little Org put on his channel. I love speaking with Org too, and all you guys are pretty rational, but Org in particular, because he'll stop, take the time to be honest and recognize both sides of the point. So, but yeah, we discussed this last night. But no, I don't think you're inherently evil if you're an atheist. I mean, I think that God wrote in everyone's heart the moral law. So,
Well,
but I did want to jump back. Pivot for 1 second. And I don't want to be overtalked for just 1 second. A prediction that ID made was that junk DNA was not junk DNA. Siegfried Scherer, I don't know how to say that. Sure, predicted. What was it? He predicted nested coding, overlapping genes, and so that was definitely a prediction that ID made. Because junk DNA has been around for a long time, so that is definitely one prediction that we made, that junk DNA would not be done. We would find that it had function, and it's been found to have much function. And it's actually, if they would have, went into it a little bit deeper earlier and not considered it junk, then modern medicine would be farther along now, and there are secular papers on that. So, but that's just one point. So,
question.
They have made a prediction. So
upon
they may not have a ton
data,
of them, but that one prediction you have to give me.
Upon what data was that prediction made?
It was made on the fact that junk DNA is not junk DNA, that it would have.
Yeah, but we didn't discover that until later. They predicted that before we discovered it. So what data did they make the prediction on? Because all data has to be made, or rather, excuse me, all predictions have to be made on some form of data. So what data were those predictions made on?
Just studying the genetic code, I guess, because it was overlapping genes. I would say that he was, he's a microbiologist, so I'm sure.
So if the genetic code itself predicted this, how come all of the genetic scientists
No, I'm just saying
access to
it's a retrodiction. You're doing a retrodiction. We're talking about a prediction.
So when scientists make a prediction, it's a retrodiction, but when you make a prediction,
man, it's well established that creationists predicted that junk DNA would have function. I know that that bothers you. I know you guys called it junk for a long time, and you don't want it. Yesterday, Neff's channel, Speed of Sound, was wrong. And he didn't admit it, but he bounced out of there. He said that nowhere they ever claimed it was junk DNA. He was 100% wrong. I pulled up the paper from 2012. I could pull it up again right now. I could pull up about 20 of them.
Well,
do you know what they meant?
That. I could never prove you wrong, right? I could never prove you wrong, Chris Keith, because we would need someone that's a professional. Wait a second, we would need somebody that's a professional in microbiology. No, I don't know where we can get one of those.
You're missing the point.
Yeah, where can we get somebody that knows about microbiology?
There's nothing to prove. That's what I was telling Brian. There's nothing to prove wrong. He made a prediction, and lo and behold, it came true. So I mean, there's nothing.
But
there's nothing inherently good or bad about it. I'm not saying it like disproves evolution.
We need a microbiologist.
Hold on, everybody, hold on. All right, here's the thing that Leo's trying to impress upon you. Anybody can make a prediction. Hey, it's going to rain next Thursday. Okay, but what he's saying, somebody made a prediction, of this type, what data did they base it on? I mean, did they just say, "Hey, guess what? This is going to happen. This is what it is," or did they have actual data behind that prediction?
Sir, I don't know about that, but the prediction still holds true. You know what I mean? That doesn't defeat the fact that he made a
funny
prediction.
Thing is, if I say it's going to rain next Thursday and then it does, but I didn't actually analyze any weather data to know that, I literally just blindly said it.
That's not what they did. That's not what he did.
Okay, then what they
data
do?
did they base it on?
I told you what he did.
What data did they base it on?
The prediction. What information were they looking at and saying, "I'm going to make a prediction based on this information"? What were they looking at?
The human genome. Overlapping codes.
How come the scientists didn't see that? I mean, they've got
Because they
access
thought it
to
was junk
state-of-the-art
DNA.
laboratory. They've got access to state-of-the-art laboratory equipment. You don't think that the majority of them would have seen that and been capable of making the same prediction, or was it just that intelligent designers were just trying
They could have come to the same. They could have come to the same.
and it ended up turning out that they
Well, yeah,
actually
Carl.
had some truth to that disagreement.
They could
Which
have
is
come
what
to
it
the
is.
same conclusion. But they might have done it sooner had they considered that maybe it was intelligently designed.
They didn't come to that conclusion because the data didn't yet exist. That's what I'm stating. You guys just blindly
Okay,
asserted
but you're
that DNA isn't really
you're
junk,
shifting
and
the
it turns out
goalpost now because
Hey,
you
you
said
guys can't talk over one another. One at a time. Go
So
ahead,
it would
Leo.
be, and that was what I was trying to get with my analogy, is that if I say it's going to rain next Thursday, but I didn't examine any data, any weather patterns, nothing, I just blindly said it, and it comes true, that doesn't mean I predicted it. It means I just made a statement and then it happened to come true. It'd be no different if I said my mom's going to walk into my room in 10 minutes. If she actually does exactly 10 minutes from now, I didn't predict that. It was just something that I said that happened to be true, because a prediction by definition is based on preliminary data. So what was the data? And if there is data, how come
you tell me when you're done and I'll
scientists,
talk. Because I don't
if
want you
there
to
is
interrupt me.
data that the prediction was made on, how come the vast majority of actual scientists didn't come to the same conclusions? Because they definitely would have if that data were there.
Go ahead, Chris.
Are you done for sure?
Yes.
Okay. You're missing the point. The prediction was made that, okay, Darwin predicted junk DNA. Okay, ID predicted that there would be overlapping codes. And lo and behold, there were found overlapping codes. Okay, whether like who found it, how they found it doesn't matter. It's immaterial. I'm just saying a prediction was made and it came true. So I mean that's a prediction.
Who predicted junk DNA? Did you say
It's
Darwin?
in
Yeah.
the chat.
Wait.
I pronounced it, and then somebody wrote it in the chat. I think Brian Stevens did. So you can Google that.
Wait, did he say Darwin predicted junk DNA?
I'm
that
just
what-
saying Darwinism.
Darwinism.
What is
So
Darwinism?
It's evolution, neo-Darwinism, modern
Hey,
system.
Wow.
Okay, whatever way you
Wait,
wanna call
wait,
it.
hold on.
Evolutionary
Hold on.
theory isn't an ism. It's just like you can't be
Wow.
an
Hold up.
Leo.
Calm down,
There isn't
man. Calm
an
down.
Einstein-ism because you agree with what Einstein said.
Can you not-
Evolutionary.
can
You
you
just
not
scalped
hear
All
me,
right,
people?
man.
Leo, you're
You just
muted.
scalped me.
Okay. Okay. So
jump right
Brainbug,
into drag.
Brainbug, you probably picked up on the same thing I did, right? When he
Yeah.
said Darwin, the Darwinianism predicted junk DNA. There's a huge issue there. Now I'm outside walking, so excuse me, Chris. Did Darwin have access to Mendelian genetics when he wrote
Okay, let me
on the
change it
origin
then.
of species?
Let me just solve this.
No.
real quick.
Hold, wait. Hold on. Don't interrupt me. It's a yes or no question. Did Darwin have access to Mendelian genetics or anything close to it when he wrote The Origin of Species?
Okay, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna say neo-Darwinism.
Okay, it was a yes or no question, right?
Well,
Did you hear
I don't need to answer that question because I'm going to say neo-Darwinism predicted it.
Okay, so here is why when you all talk to creationists, you have to have them qualify their statements, right? This is the issue. He knows that he's wrong, and the reason he won't answer that question is because he knows he messed up.
I don't know I'm
Right.
wrong, man. I'm just saying like it's semantics. You know what I'm saying?
It's not semantics.
Listen to me. You know neo-Darwinism pretty much it's been scrapped and then they moved on to
Darwinism.
there's actually the call. You ever heard of the third way that they're predicting now?
Look, man. I can. Teach
That's a
you
yes or no
man.
question.
Calm
Have you
down.
heard of
Look,
the
check this
third
out.
way? Have you heard of
Look,
the third way?
I am more than familiar with neo-Darwinism and the modern synthesis.
Sir, are you familiar with the third? Are you familiar with the third way? Yes or no?
The issue that I'm.
You asked me a
issue that
yes
I'm
or no.
bringing up.
See, you're okay. You're not answering. Therefore
You're not.
wrong.
So
Exactly,
how about
so-
this? How about? Hold on. Let me know when you're done. When you're done waffling, okay? Let me know when
That's what
you're done.
you're doing. I want to go back to what I just said about originally. It doesn't matter about the semantically what we're talking about. Either way, that what scientists, how about that, predicted that it
I
was
don't.
junk
What
DNA.
scientists existed in Darwin's age predicted?
I'm not talking about Darwin's
Mendelian-
age. We're talking about 2010, 12, 9,
Okay,
8.
so there is a difference between Darwinism and neo-Darwinism.
Of
Can we at
course,
least establish
you're
that?
gonna nitpick because I said Darwinism instead of neo-Darwinism.
That's
or modern
fine. If
citizen.
you need,
I mean, come on.
Okay, that's fine. You need
Okay,
to make sure that you clarify when you're making these declarations.
And the reason I said that, and I'll screen share, was that wasn't what I said. It's just what was written right on top of this thing. Okay.
So you're repeating something someone else said. It's
No,
not
I
what
mean-
you're actually.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
I wasn't saying that. I was just repeating,
Repeating.
trying to get to the source of what somebody asked for the source, and I was just reading word
Yeah.
for word off of that.
The
So-
problem with that is that when you don't know the context and the subject matter, you repeat things you don't actually know if you're right or wrong.
I know
That's the
what
problem here.
you
you
could
knew it,
say.
hold on.
You could
If
say
you knew
Darwin.
it-
Hey, dealing
No, you
Darwinism.
can't.
You could still say Darwinism because they believe
No.
in
No.
some
didn't have-
aspects. So you're saying some aspects of Darwinism is it still in the theory?
So how about that? No, that's not what I'm saying. So let me actually draw this distinction.
That's
Which
semantics, man.
that's not semantics. Which one of those in those two categories has the advantage of having Mendelian genetics? You tell me.
Probably modern synthesis.
Modern synthesis. So if you know that, and the point that you're making has to do with genetics, why would you say Darwinism and harp on Darwin?
I didn't harp on Darwin. That wasn't even my point. I wasn't saying Darwin or anything. I'm just saying the evolutionary theory. How about that? Would that be acceptable?
Yes,
Even-
that's
Okay, well then
So,
fine. Let's
we'll
go.
go
Let's
from there.
just back it all up. And we can just edit this all out, and what I said still stands.
Sure. So
Yeah, I'll get
the
right on
issue.
that, editing all that out.
Well, the words we use are
I'm just
important,
teasing, John.
though. I mean, what we say and what the terms that we use are important to make sure we're not talking past each other.
I understand that. I get what you're saying, but I mean, but this right here. I mean, I think you knew what I was
Well,
No.
actually, I heard you say Darwin, as in the person.
So did I.
Darwin.
DNA wasn't around in Darwin's time, was it? I mean, why would
that
you
was the
think
point.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, why would
This
you?
is-
Mendel's paper was sitting on his desk when he
You
died.
obviously should have known I was talking about neo-Darwinism. but-
No, I don't know.
No.
Didn't know what you were talking
Well, I
about.
was talking about junk DNA. So how could would that be around in Darwin's time? He
I
didn't
don't know
what
if
DNA
you
was.
knew that.
That's
I
why
didn't-
we were in awe at what you said, because
Yeah,
it
the
didn't
fact
make
that
sense.
the fact that you referenced Neffy was a hint that you didn't know what you were talking
I didn't refer. It wasn't Neffy that I referenced, by the way. I was just
referenced
that's just
it
a term.
earlier.
That's a term that can be used. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing. I don't know why you would take offense to that. It's just or take any objection to it.
I'm
It
not,
just
I'm just confused.
it encompasses
I'm like-
is the theory that came from Darwin.
Wait-
You know what I mean?
wait a
It's
second,
still
Chris.
expounded-
Wait a
It's still
minute.
expounded upon.
Wait, Chris, you think that Drag was offended because she
Not offended, but I'm just take objection to. That's what I mean. Not personally.
Yeah, because
offended.
when we're talking
I don't think
about
nobody here
science-
is personally offended at all.
Of course
by any
not.
of it.
Of course not. But when we're talking about science, right? You're telling people that they're wrong. You might want to have the right
Look, man,
label
that's
for
why I
right
said if
thing.
Ogre was in here, Ogre would say, "You know what? I know what you're saying. I know what you mean." That's why I could have an easy conversation.
I don't know who
Oh, I know
that
you're
is.
not. Trust
I don't.
me.
I don't even
I
know
have
who
no
that is.
idea. So what's more important here? Because I sat and I listened to it for a bit, and you asked several times, what empirical data led the ID people, the creationists, to their conclusion about junk DNA? And you kept saying the human genome. Now let me tell you, that means absolutely nothing. If I tell you that I possess a protein, right, that allows me to lift 5,000 pounds, and you say, okay, what's your evidence? And I say the human genome. Does that tell you what gene that is?
So I'm just saying that I'm assuming they studied the DNA, the
But you're not
human
assuming
genome,
the scientists did? The scientists, the
and
geneticists,
more
the
specifically, the
genetics-
non-coding. Go ahead.
You're fine. I was just asking. So you're assuming that the young Earth creationist, I guess, the whoever's making these claims about that they've overturned this junk DNA, that they did the research on it, and you're trusting that they did, but you're not trusting that the scientists, the
No, he's a
geneticists.
scientist. I trust both sides. I mean, he's a scientist. It doesn't matter what you would be surprised at how many. You think all scientists are atheists? Do you really think? that?
No one's even
No,
said
I
anything
think
about a
most of them
scientist.
are not
being
atheists, actually.
You're right. You're correct on that.
A lot of the guys who taught, well, guys and gals who taught me were scientists.
Yeah, so-
were Christian, and one or two were creationists. Believe it or not, they were wrong about certain things, but what we go based on is not their personal belief, but their data, right? Actually going to their papers and not just repeating things that they say that they believe. That's the difference between someone who is informed and not necessarily informed.
Right, I understand, and I was just saying that my original point that that overlapping genes or nested coding, whatever you want to call it, was predicted, anticipated, whatever you want to say it, by a microbiologist named Siegfried Scher. Okay, there's actually I can pull up a little video if you wanted to watch it. I mean, if you wanted to waste
Sure.
time on your show.
Well,
up to you guys.
in this video, is he going to actually reference research, or is he just going to say, "Well, I guess"?
I'm not
That's-
sure. There's a couple of videos I can pull up. I don't have one on hand, but I will go get one if you know
Just
if you want
based,
to watch one.
well, that's fine. Like, based on your
I've
best
watched them. It's been a
recollection.
while.
Okay, so
Actually, I watched it. Actually, it was Stephen Meyer's video that I watched him. You know what I mean? You know,
Oh, even better.
Yeah,
Even better.
Stephen Meyer's pretty credible. I mean, he's pretty fair. I mean, he's not even I think he's he might be a theistic evolutionist. He's an old. Is he older?
He's a creationist. Older theologians are all creationists.
Yeah, but he's older for sure. But is he not also a theistic evolutionist?
No, if he's a creationist, he's not an evolutionist. Whatever evolutionism is.
That's what I'm saying. Let's not get.
Well, I'm less concerned with the labels. I'm more concerned.
Yeah,
with
me
that.
too.
So, have you actually read any of these guys' paper?
I read that the one I'm referencing right now. It's been a while, but I've read that. Yeah.
Well, I thought you said YouTube video, so I must have misheard you.
No, I said I could get a view to that if you wanted. That would sum it up if you wanted to take the time.
No, I'd rather find their actual research. Like, did they actually do any genomic?
Well, I gave you the name. It's out there. I mean, if you want me to bounce out the stream and take
Are you
time
talking about the Siegfried guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a creationist, and he's also not an intelligent design proponent. So he didn't make anything that he said was not made on the basis of demonstrating that either of those two worldviews is true.
I'm pretty sure he is a proponent of.
I don't think he is.
Intelligent design.
Wrong, but I
well,
don't.
I'm not necessarily a creationist, but I don't.
Well, either way, it doesn't matter. So
yeah. It doesn't because it's not. You know what I mean. Either way, what my overarching point was that if they would assume that the non-coding regions of the genome were functional, like many, and there were many creationists that said that, predicted that they would have got on that a little bit sooner. You know what I mean? Modern medicine could have been farther along, and that there is a secular paper on that says that for a fact.
There were tons of sources of people who had detected what we now know are microRNA, right? So the non-protein coding regions have been suspected for quite some time. Like, it didn't really matter what.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of people thought junk DNA is something like new. No, it's been around since like the 70s. So
I did want to point out really quick. I just went to his website and it's in German, but there you can use translators. He is not a prominent creationist as is often purported, and he in fact believes that religion and science are two completely different ways of approaching reality. So no, he's not a creationist. He's not an intelligent design proponent. He's just a scientist.
So and this is what I see very often having these conversations. People sort of bootstrap what they want to believe with science they don't necessarily understand to come to these conclusions, right? Because if I give you a perfect example in geology, there's actually a young Earth creationist geology company, and we have these huge companies, ExxonMobil, all those. We're spending billions of dollars. Now, if young Earth creationism was factual, if it had some merit, why aren't these huge companies, multi-billion dollar companies, using their data to find oil reserves?
Question.
I mean, it's the proof is in the pudding, because we can sit here and say whatever, who believes what, back and forth, but when it comes to billions of dollars and being able to find these deposits, right, that's going to be the best evidence you have. Because do you know of any young Earth creationist geology companies that are being contracted by any of these petroleum companies?
No, I don't even know that field at all, to be honest with you, sir.
Well, I mean, and here's the thing too, is so if the Earth was only 6,000 years old, Drag, would there even be any petroleum deposits?
More than likely not.
Come on, Drag. You know for a fact. It says right there in Ephesians that the De Beers diamond mine would be founded in Alaska sometime in the 20th century. You know it's right there, man.
Oh, that is true.
There were a couple of points that I wanted to make if I could. Really quick. The first one was to go back to that. There's no such thing as evolutionism or Darwinism. Those are subtle attempts to make it seem as if it's some ideological belief when it's not. Just like if you accept Einstein's general and special theories of relativity, that's not relativism because it's not an ideology. It's literally just what all of the thoroughly confirmed facts say about our reality and how it functions. Same thing with evolutionary theory. There's evolutionary theory and then there's pseudoscience. Those are the only two categories. You can choose to believe in whichever one you want. That's on you, but there is no evolutionism. It is not an ideology. It is not a worldview. Just like relativism doesn't exist because you accept what Einstein said. You either accept what the data and the mathematics and the observations say, or you don't. Simple as that. Also, junk DNA is more of a misnomer. It isn't junk, and it was never junk. The term junk meant that it's non-coding. And what we have discovered is that the vast majority of it is still non-coding. Does it have some form of
so
function?
you're gonna
Yeah,
go ahead and
but
you're
it
gonna go
is
ahead
not-
and say that.
But it is still non-coding.
So
And that's
later
what
on
the
in the
term
future,
meant,
if it comes up
non-coding.
that it's all they find function for every bit of it, then you're gonna die on that hill.
There's an issue with when
Still
you say function.
because the word
Hold on,
junk
let
means
Drag go.
non-coding.
Hold on, let Drag go. Go ahead,
All
Drag.
right. So real quick, so when you say function, I want to understand. Do you mean protein coding when you say the word function?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, in the non-coding regions, if there's found to be like where there's information that can be used and it controls something else, you know what I'm saying? Then that would be a function.
So that's a really broad definition. So outside of
Well, I'm not a microbiologist, like we were all saying. We're none of us are, so I'm doing the best I can.
that's fine. That's fine. And I just want to understand what you mean when you say that, right? So
Right.
you're including in that category. I'm about to take off here in a second.
Cool.
Protein coding regions, right? And you're also including non-protein coding regions that have regulatory function. Do I understand
Regulatory
that correctly?
function, specifically more than non-coding region, would be what they used to say junk DNA. There was basically that's just leftover. It's not really used. It's basically useless.
No.
That's
they did
not
used
actually
to say that.
That's not actually what they said. But go ahead.
Well, I mean, they at least alluded to that. I mean, it's pretty well
No.
done.
Well, this is
That's-
similar.
I'm gonna have to
To,
share screen.
this is
Can
similar.
I
to
read
that.
something here really quick?
All right. I will catch you guys later. I got an alumni thing to take care of.
Thanks for coming
Take
by.
care, brother.
Yeah,
Take care.
Billy, if
Yeah,
you
right.
can, but let Brain Bug
Not a problem.
before you said anything. Go ahead, Brian.
Oh,
Yeah, right
yeah.
on.
Well, I was just gonna kind of piggyback on what Leo was saying there. That junk DNA is it's kind of like the term vestigial organ. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have a function now. It just means that it's not functioning in the way that we would have expected it to, or the way that it did on ancestral species.
Well, they like the appendix. They had touted it was completely non-functional. Now,
No, definitely
yes,
not.
they did.
Well,
Can I
I
share
got
screen?
the explicit refutation of that by T. Ryan Gregory in 2005 in The Evolution of the Genome, pages 29 through 31. The term junk
I know you're
DNA
playing
has
cover
been
up,
questioned
but-
on the grounds that it provokes a strong a priori assumption of total non-functionality, and some have recommended using more neutral terminology such as non-coding DNA instead. So yes, the term junk DNA meant it does not code for proteins. It never meant it has absolutely no function at all. It never meant that. You're just wrong. It never meant
Can
that.
I share screen?
And you can trace
Yeah.
that back to the original. What's his name? Susumu Ono.
Yeah.
The first person to coin the term was refusing it.
no, yes.
Yeah, to refer to it wasn't writing protein code. It's not. That's it. That's the only function he was saying that it was not doing. You can look at papers on that if you want.
Yeah, from his own paper, from Ono's own paper in 1972. The term was formalized that same year by Susumu Ono, who noted that the mutational load from deleterious mutations placed an upper limit on the number of functional loci that could be expected given a typical mutation rate. Ono hypothesized that mammal genomes could not have more than 30,000 loci under selection before the cost from the mutational load would cause an inescapable decline in fitness and eventually extinction. This prediction remains robust, with the human genome containing approximately protein coding 20,000 genes. Another source for Ono's theory was the observation that even closely related species can have widely, as in terms of orders of magnitude, different genome sizes, which has been dubbed the C-value paradox, which was dubbed the C-value paradox in 1971. So the very guy who coined the term did not even state that it means total non-functionality.
So there are no vestigial. Your position is there are no vestigial organs or vestigial
Who's made that?
remnants left over from any organism. Is that your position?
No. Whose position is that?
I'm asking Leo.
Leo?
When did I make any of those claims?
I'm asking. I'm asking.
I don't know enough about vestigial
Because
origin.
we have like the verminonasal.
Is there anything that you would consider vestigial that is so it's completely non-functional left in
I don't know enough about vestigial organs to know if there are any out there that are 100% non-functional. But by the way, that article from Scientific American that you have up is a wonderful article, and I can assure you it probably doesn't say any of the things that you're about to say that it does.
I'm just going to read what it says, and we'll go from there. Let me read those, so please.
And then please do go on to that, but I just wanted to ask if anybody else noticed that when Drag was here, that the dog in the background thought you were full of shit too, Chris.
That dog has been eating too much of his own poop, man. That's probably why he's full of it, just like a lot of you guys. I'm just teasing. Hidden treasures and junk DNA. What was once known as junk DNA turns out to hold hidden treasures, says computational biologist Ewan Burney.
Evan or Ewan.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
it's either Evan or Ewan. Probably Ewan.
Probably right. Big picture, I get the strong feeling that previously I was ignorant of my own ignorance, and I now understand my ignorance.
That is the whole of science.
And you know what? That's honest, and I can respect that. In 1970s, when biologists, that's what I was saying, it goes back to 70. In 1970s, when biologists first glimpsed at the landscape of the human genes, they saw small pieces of DNA that coded for proteins known as exons. Some seemed to float like bits of woods in a sea of genetic gibberish. What on earth were these billions of letters of DNA therefore? No less molecular luminary than Francis Crick, co-discoverer of DNA's double helical structure, suspected it was little better than junk. The phrase junk DNA has haunted human genetics ever since. I don't need to go any further, really. That was my point.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that it has no functionality. It doesn't code. And the thing is,
I agree.
It's the introns actually that don't code for proteins. They used to think that they pretty much didn't do anything, and they still kind of don't really do anything. They have some level of functionality in gene expression, but aside from that, and even that's really small. Aside from that, introns still don't really do anything. They have some slight functionality, but they really don't do much.
Okay.
Well, and here's an example, Chris, and maybe you agree with this. Okay, it's just like when people get hung up on the term the Big Bang and think that it was an explosion. I mean, that's basically what they're saying here, about the junk DNA, that it really doesn't mean junk, it doesn't necessarily mean, complete non-functionality.
It's a misnomer. It's something that describes something in a completely inaccurate way.
Right, but they used it. That's what I'm saying. They used it wrong in the past. They should.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
And now we see them admitting that.
But what I was saying is, this is what I was getting at. Go ahead. Sorry, you go ahead. So you can talk
I
real
just want to
quick.
take a quick second here to talk about citation. And there's nothing wrong with Scientific America. They're writing this stuff to make it palpable to the layperson, to people who don't read technical papers. They're taking the technical work and converting it to make it palpable to someone who has an interest in science, but maybe not necessarily technical trained. The majority of the people on this panel right now, for instance, so they're going to use language and hyperbole. And I wish the article was still up now, because there was a line in there about saying it was little more than junk. You're fine. And I think that maybe we're taking a hyperbolic statement there made to relay the way the information is viewed by the scientific community to a layperson, to say it's little more than junk, because it's a colloquial name. Junk DNA is not a technical name. There's a non-coding DNA is the technical term for it.
Yeah, you guys are very good apologists. I'll give you that. No, I'm teasing.
You're fine.
What I was going to say though, Leo, let's go back before this, okay, to when they thought it was junk DNA. No matter what terms how we want to agree or not agree, but we did kind of, as science. When I say we, I'm just saying all scientists kind of thought that was probably, not. It was kind of used, not it was still useless, left over. The non-coding regions. If they would have thought, what, this probably has function. Let's investigate this from the get-go, like it has function. Do you not think that we would have been a little bit farther along in like modern medicine?
I think we'd be a little further along in modern medicine.
Okay, that was my point.
I would think we would be a little further along in modern medicine if.
Actually, there's a paper on it.
Holy fuck!
Well, first.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were done, John.
Finish the sentence.
I was
I'm sorry. I thought you were done. Sorry.
Look, we would be farther along, medically speaking, if science had not been shackled by religious belief. That's what I think. But that's all I wanted to say. I wish I hadn't had to start it up three times. To be able to say
I would answer.
I apologize. I didn't know, John. I thought you were done. I apologize. Go ahead, Dickie.
How I answer your question, Chris? I do not have enough understanding to know whether that is true or false, but the reason did not assume that it has a function is because there
You're
was
cutting out.
no data thing.
It
So
may
is
just- you may-
is
missed
he
that.
roboting for anybody else?
I'm sorry. I think he.
I did.
he
Where did I?
kept- You
start
cut
roboting?
out to me the whole way. I don't know
Roboting.
about everybody else. Yeah, you cut out from the beginning.
Yeah, you
Might
were
wanna-
roboting tough. Hey, Dickie.
So what I said is that I do
Dickie.
not know enough. Okay.
Hey, I don't mean to cut in here. You know, I'm a bit of an asshole.
So am I gonna get
but,
Answer this question that was asked of me or not?
Well, you're cutting out though, but that's fine. We
I
can't
mean,
hear you.
yeah, you were roboting.
Am I cutting
tough
out
today.
now?
Go ahead.
go ahead.
We'll get.
So
to
am I
Dickie
roboting
in a
now?
second. No, go ahead. I said.
So what I was going to say is I don't know enough to know whether if we assume there was function would be anywhere better along, because at the time we didn't have anything to make the assumption that there was sort of code function there.
So, go ahead, Dickie Stank.
Yeah, I want to let Dickie
I've been waiting to hear
talk.
from you. Go ahead, Dickie. You're muted.
yeah, well, I don't mean to be an asshole, but I am. But you know, I've got a great brain, a fucking sound epistemology, and some fucking some biscuits and gravy, right? You know, I use the almond milk and the fucking biscuits and gravy. And
You
then
don't
I
use
go with the
buttermilk,
soy
man? That
fucking
ain't biscuits.
What?
If you don't use buttermilk, man, come on, that ain't really real biscuits.
Well,
the
let's
thing of it
unpack
is,
this and we can parse
reason he
this
doesn't
out
use-
if you want,
reason
Chris.
he- the
I
reason
love
he
almond milk,
doesn't-
by the way.
Oh my God! The reason he doesn't use the buttermilk is because his arms are so skinny he can't lift a jug of buttermilk.
Oh, you guys are talking about. Oh yeah, man, I rimmed him for that. I said, man, Bisquick. Oh Lordy mercy, man. I'm in the South. I'm from East Tennessee. You gotta have. You can't have all. You can't use Bisquick, and you can't use Jimmy.
Thanks,
You
Chris.
can't use low fat sauce. You got to get real sausage. You don't add
Yeah.
oil back in, man. You got to use the grease.
No,
from
I
the
use
sausage.
Yeah,
soy sausage
exactly.
out here in Southern California.
Huh?
Soy sausage from my boyfriend.
Soy sausage.
So
See,
welcome,
Dan's in.
welcome to Dan,
Dan.
Creation Myth, and Germania.
Thank you.
I think that Dan
Hi,
might have
thank you.
popped in here to get a little piece of you, Chris. But
That's fine. I respect. I mean, I like.
well, no, and I just want to
to
commend you because I DM'd a bunch of Christians, and we've had several Christians in here in streams past. But I want to commend you for being the odd man out in the room and hanging in there tough.
I don't mind it. I mean, it's you guys are fair enough generally. So
Wait, there's a Christian in here. Get the pitchforks. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, so I just wanted to go back a minute to the junk DNA conversation because if it, in the private chat in here, if anybody can share it, there's a really good paper from 2014. It's from the Encode team, and yep, there you go. Thank you, Brainbug. And the Ewan Burney, who wrote that other piece that you had showed a few minutes ago, he's an author on that paper, and this paper was 2 years later. And this was a really good detailed look at how much actual like functionality, like stuff that has a job to do, there is in the human genome. And the confusion is often with Encode. They said about 80% of the genome has a biochemical activity. But then in this paper, they go into in like a lot of detail in terms of like, well, if it makes RNA, but does the RNA do anything? And if you read through that, you only arrive at 10, maybe 15% of the genome that we know has a good function. Like we are sure that it does something.
Yeah, I
we know
would
what it
agree.
does. And then there's a big chunk, maybe 30-ish%, maybe 40%, where it has activity. It might have a selected function, but the activity isn't that high. The sequence for those regions isn't conserved across lots of species. And so it could go either way. And then there's a bunch of the genome that has activity that definitely isn't functional, where it's you're looking at RNA transcription, for example, but it's making like fewer than one copy of that RNA per cell. Like it's just not doing enough of anything to have an effect, right? So when you tally up all the stuff that we know for sure is functional, you get between 10, 12. If you're being really generous, you could maybe stretch it to like 15% of the genome. If you are really generous and you assume a bunch of stuff that does something, but we don't know what it does, if we assume it's actually selected to do what it does, even though we can't figure out or haven't figured out what it does, you can maybe get up to 30 or 40%. But that still leaves 50, 60, maybe 70% of the genome that's junk. It doesn't
That
do
answers
anything.
my
It doesn't
question.
have a
So your
selected
position
function.
would be what, 50 to 60% is going to be definite junk? Is that what your position is?
I'm extremely confident that like maybe 55% is junk. And then there you go. That's figure one from that paper. And this is really good because they break it down by levels
Yeah,
of
and that's about
biochemical
when they
activity.
started figuring it. I'm sorry, let me cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. So this is, and what you were saying is exactly right. So if you look at the 2012 paper by ENCODE, it's the same authors as this 2014 paper.
I noticed that.
They said basically 80% of the genome has a biochemical function. That probably means about 80% of the genome is functional, right? It probably is selected to do a job. And then 2 years later, they come back and say, not really. It's much more likely to be less than that. And if anyone who's ever controlling the screen share, if you go down to the figure that's the bar graph, it's like figure 3 or figure 4 later on in the paper. It's a bar. It's got like 8 or 9 bars in a graph. And that breaks down the level of different types of activity perfect by how much of that activity there is. So for example, if you look at just that third bar where it says all RNA across the bottom, if you look at just that third bar, the white sections at the top and even that yellow one, those numbers, like the 0, 0.1, it's not critical what they mean, but basically it tells you how much of the RNA is being made per cell. And until you get into that lightest green region, that first green region there, you're getting less than one piece of RNA per cell for whatever fraction of the genome it is. So even though you can say, well, most of the genome, almost 80% of the genome is transcribed to RNA, like 40% of that 80%, half of it, is totally spurious. It's just like sometimes random areas get transcribed and they're not doing anything. It just happens once in a blue moon. And ENCODE's assays picked up on that, but they could quantify how much expression there was, and it's so little. You could be fairly certain that it's not doing anything. So that's why there's this disconnect, I think, between how much activity there is in the genome and then how much is actually functional. And when we're talking about junk DNA, the relevant thing is how much is functional, how much is doing a job. And we can't confidently assign any more than 10 or 12% to that. And maybe if you stretch it, you can get to 30 or 40%. But the rest of the genome, we can be pretty confident that's junk right now.
I would have a couple questions, but if anybody else has something directly for Dan, they can go ahead. But I would ask, how much do you think epigenetics has helped in figuring out some of the use for this non-coding region, studying and particularly this, since we've been since epigenetics has really been more of a focus in the last, I don't know, what, 7 years. What do you think?
Yeah, just last couple decades for that, and that's definitely part of it. But the interesting thing about that is sometimes epigenetic, right? So for people who aren't familiar with this, epigenetics is when you chemically modify the DNA without changing the sequence. And when you do that, you can change how much is expressed. So you could make it pack up really densely, or you can make it kind of unwind, and then you could express it more. And that's actually heritable from parent to offspring, which is really cool. The thing with that is it's not necessarily indicative of function, because there are some parts of the genome where you want them to be coiled up super densely so they don't do anything. Because if they could be expressed, then they could actually cause damage to the cell. Like a lot of the genome is derived from dead viruses, and using epigenetics to silence them is a way we fight them. That's like part of our immune system. So that epigenetic regulation, even though you might have a region of the genome that's targeted very strongly by that, that doesn't mean that region is functional. It could actually mean the exact opposite, that region is dangerous. And if we don't silence it, then it could like have activity and actually hurt us.
Yeah, and I had more questions, but one quick one you could probably answer would be, at what point do you think that because evolution, or okay, I won't go there, because earlier we had a thing on terms, but if you're moving from trying to do this in your own terminology, if you're going to a new species, okay, from your last common ancestor, or let's say from common ancestors past, you need to hold on to these mutations, because that's what's going to drive the change, correct? You know what I mean? Because you have to have these neutral ones in there too, so they can be selected. If it was just purely, the ones that were detrimental, that would, of course, that wouldn't drive it very far. But at what point, is my question is, do you think that they're going to completely lose that information? Because not all organisms have like we don't have all the genetic information from, let's say, a bacterium. You know what I mean? At what point would you lose the information completely? Would it be gone? Why is it holding on to it? In other words, why? Because it seems like in nature to hold on to something would be expending energy, or it would be kind of wasteful. Does that make any sense?
Oh, you mean like neutral? Why would you hold on to why do we have all this junk DNA that's not doing anything? Why?
Yeah. I know. Yeah. At what point do you think that, or at what point does the genome say, okay, this has not been used in so long that it's just going to, completely be lost?
So it doesn't. So just I'm gonna jet in about 3 or 4 minutes. Just so
sorry, I didn't mean to take all your time for everybody else.
No, it's all good. I just wanted to pop in just for a few, and thank you for letting me pop in.
Thank you.
The idea is that the genome's not like thinking about it's not like me with like boxes in my basement and like, what do I need to get rid of in order to fit?
Like Dawkins said.
Wait, Chris.
No, we're just talking back and forth. Go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's not like we're looking at our genome going, okay, you got that box of stuff in your basement. You're like, okay, I haven't used those kitchen utensils in like 3 years. I can probably get rid of those. That's not what our genome is doing. It's about a give and take, because it takes like extra energy to maintain and like copy the DNA,
Correct.
But it would also take extra energy to get rid of it. And there can actually be a cost to getting rid of it, because neutral DNA that's non-functional but not hurting you, is just hanging out. That can actually be an important source of new useful things later on. And we have lots of examples of that. Just in hominids, there was actually a paper just a couple years ago looking at how we get new genes from previously non-protein coding regions. And so there's a cost energetically to keeping it, but there's also a cost just energetically to like identifying what it would be that you could get rid of and then actually getting rid of it. And also there'd be a longer term evolutionary cost, where the things that are going to be a little more loosey-goosey in terms of what they hang on to, those things are more likely to be able to adapt to new situations later on. You're not deciding consciously like, I'm going to hang on to this because it might be useful. But the things that are more permissive end up having greater flexibility over time. So the phenotype of, are you really strict about how much stuff you keep around, or are you a little bit permissive about how much stuff you keep around? The most beneficial phenotype for that turns out to be a bit permissive. And that's why you can get genomes that are 50, 60, 80% non-functional.
Well, let me ask you this, Dan. So, and just so you guys know, I've been completely lost for like the last 20 minutes.
Same.
I don't understand any of this stuff, but
I are not.
That blows me away.
So look, so this is what my mind is, turning what you said into, and tell me if this is correct or not. There's this non-coding DNA, and Chris is asking you, well, why doesn't they just weed it out? Is it kind of like that? If you like, the string would be broken, like you don't want to get rid of it because it might be useful later, but also like, when you go to like force stop an app,
it wouldn't know though.
The message pops up, if you force stop this app, other functions of your phone might not work properly. I mean, is it also that you're kind of like changing the format of the string itself, or?
So it's yes, but it's not a conscious decision. And this will be my last thing, because I get this other Zoom chat I'm getting into in a minute. But what it is, it's say you have like within a population of, say you got 100 individuals, half of them are going to be really strict about weeding out the DNA. Like they have enzymes that are really super active and like patrolling your genome for extra stuff. And the other half are like, their enzymes, they check, but like whatever, they let stuff sneak through. The ones that let the stuff stick around, they're going to be more successful over time. So over time, the variants of the regulatory networks that would like deal with this stuff, the variants that are more permissive towards it become more common over many generations. So it's not like individuals being like, what do I need down the road? It's as a whole, you're kind of like just randomly picking, like within a population, you're randomly, you have variation. And the ones that are best able to pass on their particular mix of genes to their offspring, those genes there are then going to be more common down the road. So what it seems like is the case is the mix of genes that is a little more permissible in terms of what's just kind of kicking around in your genome. That mix ends up being more beneficial in the long term rather than a mix that's really strict about getting rid of extra stuff. Did that make sense?
Yeah. It does. Yep, absolutely.
That's the idea. All right. I'm going to jet. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, I wish we had you
Thank
longer.
you, thank you so much, Dan, for showing up, and you're welcome anytime. We do this every Wednesday at 7 p.m.
I hope your baby's
Thanks,
happy and
appreciate it.
healthy. By the way,
Have a good night.
Peace out.
Dan's brilliant.
yeah, I wish we had Dan for longer, man.
Well, that's okay. We got Puff and Immutable and Brain
I was
Bug.
going to ask him if he thought the and maybe for somebody else that came in, if they thought the like Dawkins, the selfish gene, if the genotype necessarily controls the phenotype, did they still hold on to that? Do they still believe that? Or do you?
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Just so everybody knows, I've had a few drinks tonight. Sobriety kind of sucks. No, I'm just kidding.
Not
first, is it, to my understanding, you're a Christian and you're in here with all these evil atheists. Are you a Christian?
Yeah, I'm a Christian.
Okay, that's cool. I've got a question. This is a question I've been asking a lot of my Christian friends. A few Christian relatives, not too many of them, because it makes Thanksgiving really awkward. But do you, and if you don't want to answer, it's cool. Do you believe that Satan used to be an angel in heaven named Lucifer and got kicked out of heaven because he became sinful? Or what say you?
Yeah, I think we've been over this one before. Yeah, I think in the Bible it says Satan was originally a cherub, and he also, I think it calls him an angel of light, is it not, Lucifer, in the Old Testament?
Right.
And so your overarching question was what?
Oh, did Satan used to be an angel in heaven? Like he was a non-sinner, but then I guess he.
Yeah, I mean, according to Scripture, yeah, he would have been. I would have to look look back at the passages to refresh myself, but I would think that say that he would have been God created him as a cherub or the angel that would be that. I hate to say this.
No, you good.
He reflected. He stood above God to he was one of his highest angels. I mean, I don't want to mess this up because
I mean that's what I've heard too. I'm sorry, go on.
But because there's the wording on the you use the word angel, but being may be a better word just to say for right now, just to be safe.
Right.
It was a being that was created, and of course he was perfect in all of his ways until iniquity was found in him. So his pride, you know what I mean? Apparently God gave him the ability to have that choice somehow.
Well, the reason why I ask you that is just so I can kind of pinpoint or kind of get an idea of like kind of where you are in that doctrine. So my question is, if an angel can sin in heaven, does that mean like there could exist possibly sin in heaven?
Well, I don't know because he would be the first of them to do that, and that's why I think.
Well, the first, but when Satan, for lack of a better term, schismed, didn't he take like a third of the angels?
That's what it says. Yeah.
Didn't he take like a third of the angels?
Or they went with him. They decided they chose to, so they had choice. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, and this may seem off topic, but it does relate. And again, if you don't have like an answer, it's fine. It's no problem. But why is there like death and destruction in this world? Like, babies getting cancer and, things of that nature.
Yeah, we had actually in Praise's thread or stream last night, we talked about this, but God, the suffering is from the fall. You know what I mean? It's just a natural byproduct of the fall. You know what I mean? That's why we're degrading. I believe our genome's degrading. I believe that everything's degrading. So.
Well, so correct me if I'm wrong. So the reason why there's death and destruction and rape and things of that nature
is that man messed up and didn't adhere to God's
right.
What he.
I get that.
God.
But does that mean that? So basically,
whether they were tricked by Satan or whatever,
they
messed up.
So basically, the reason why there's destruction, take that however you will, here on Earth is
calamity would probably be the word the Bible would use.
Is because of man's free will. Correct.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm saying so. The reason why there's death and destruction here on Earth is because of man's free will, and they're practicing of their free will to basically rebel against God. Would that be correct?
Yes, and natural laws, and we're in a natural.
So wait a minute. So children get cancer because man rebels against God.
Hold on, Mr. Peterson. I haven't gotten there yet. No. Well, that is a good question. I would like to hear Chris's answer to that. But if
I'm not a theologian.
If there exists free will in heaven for angels, beings created by and living in the actual literal presence of God, doesn't that mean heaven must suffer the same consequences as earth, as far as like death and stuff like that?
I don't know. I don't know what an angel. I don't know what an angel is. You know what I mean? Specifically, the Bible doesn't necessarily say what an angel is.
Well, a being in heaven sinned, and so shouldn't there be death and destruction in heaven?
Well, I mean, he casted them out. That's why he casted them out, because he's a holy, righteous God, and he probably couldn't have it in his sight. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. No, I get that. Well, like, what if a Christian gets to heaven, and just like Lucifer or Satan,
we talked about this last night. You might want to watch that stream. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely check it out. Is it on Jill's channel?
I think Ogre uploaded it. It was his part of it. He might have. I take it back. He might have left before we started talking about that. It's praise I am that I am. Praise that I am that I am. We went into that a little bit.
Okay, because the reason why I like to ask this of Christians, or at least Christians who, because there are Christians who believe that Satan was never an angel. It's a small sect, but some do believe that he was never an angel, which I have a separate list of questions for them. But
yeah.
Anyway, the reason why I ask that is because, for example, my dad, he believes that Satan used to be an angel, and then he became sinful in heaven, and then he was kicked out of heaven. But doesn't that mean that you can be a Christian in heaven and also still practice your free will to sin and get kicked out of heaven?
Well, I believe that myself, that as far as I understand that Satan was a cherub. That would be like a winged angelic being. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then just if you look that word up, it'll. I think it says something. Look it up here.
No, well, that was all my questions. I could keep going, but I mean, trust me, I know what it's like to be the one person in a chat room.
No, that's fine. But what I would say to that is that somehow, and my personal thoughts on it would be that, that they had an ability, that maybe Satan, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him, had a little bit more of a power or a position, ability that, he had a higher understanding of some of the angels, and that maybe being that he was, got caught up in that pridefulness, wanting to be God, that had caused a lot of them to sin, and maybe God wanted to, it's to kind of show them. Let's say if they were robots type deals, you know what I mean? How would you show robots something, you know what I mean, or teach them, you know what I mean, without somehow creating something else, like, man, to show them, what the product is of what happens, what sin is, you know what I mean? So maybe it's in a way, also angels are learning a lesson at the same time that we are.
You know what I find so fascinating about this is that, like a lot of Christians will tell you, like, if you would just, ask with all your heart, and once you know God, once you know Jesus, you'll see the light, and you'll never turn your back on him. And here is Lucifer, who knew God up close and personal, and he turned his back on God, and a third of the core of angels left with him. I mean, so if the people right next to God can choose to turn their back on God,
right?
Well, what does that say about God?
I would say that they were deceived, that Satan was given more of whatever, you know what I mean, more insight, more, more human-like ability, or whatever, you want to call it. It was able to sin, and then he was able to influence the other angels by, because let's say you took somebody like children, for example, that don't really know a lot about anything, and you just kind of like told them things, and they wasn't sure because they haven't had the life experience or the experience that you have, the knowledge as an adult, and then you cause them to come with you in like a cult or something, but they necessarily followed you because they believed you, but you could be deceiving them,
So let's and I'm completely blown away by the fact that everybody has sat here silently during that. But you guys must have been,
My hand's been raised for a while, John.
Well, what? I'm not even looking at the private chat. We were just kind of letting it go free.
37.
Go,
Oh man,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well,
man.
I didn't want to interrupt, but I do have a shitload of questions here.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
All right. For quite a long time, I've been stuck on Genesis. I can never get past it. So I just have a couple questions. What two trees were put in the garden? Or I'm sorry, Chris. Do you believe that Genesis is literal, is allegorical? How do you take Genesis?
And you know what? It could be literal, and then it could also, you know what I mean? I don't have a firm 100% stance on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's an
because
easy
there's
take.
so
I
much.
get it.
There is a lot of, like, I do a lot of typology study. That's Jesus in the Old Testament. I mean, you take the parallel between Jesus and Isaac, or Jesus and Moses, or Jesus and Melchizedek. There's so many types of Christ in the Old Testament that there is a lot of symbolism there, and Christ actually endorses it because he speaks on it. So it's not like
he does.
can't,
He endorses Moses, I believe, doesn't
yeah.
he?
So yeah.
Okay.
And there's
so
Chris
my next question would be, what two trees were put in the garden?
Two trees?
Did God not plant two specific trees in the garden?
Give a verse. I'll look at the verse. If you do have a specific verse in mind, I'll look at the verse.
I think what he's referring to
about
is I think he's referring
a tree of knowledge, and
the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Evil and the tree of life.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know there was two trees. I mean,
you didn't know that.
What verse are you speaking of? That's why you like ask what verse.
Dude, I'm a technical illiterate. I put it in there. I can't look it up because I'm on my phone.
Oh, okay. I'll look for you then.
I know there's two trees.
Two trees, the worst rap name ever.
I think it was a tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and I want to say the tree of eternal life. Maybe I could be wrong.
Look at the verse. I don't see two trees.
Hold
on.
on.
The guard. Wait a second here.
Yeah, it's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and the tree of life.
Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying. I thought you meant like two trees of like on the knowledge of good and evil. I apologize.
No, it specifically states like two different trees, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The tree of life and the tree of knowledge. Okay.
Yes. What does that mean? The tree of life.
That would be what I guess what I would interpret it is what was they ate to sustain their life, in whatever state they were in. That's what kept them in the regenerative state. That's what I would describe that as.
I would have a question about that too.
Right
so
here,
because
Sassy has the scripture that it's Genesis 2.
Oh, Sassy's on it.
Can somebody read it? Because I believe it states eternal or everlasting. And if I'm wrong about that, I want to know.
Eating the fruit of the tree of life represented choosing total reliance on God to show what is good or evil through his law and his Holy Spirit. However, eating from the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil represented human beings choosing for themselves what is good and evil, rejecting any direction from God.
Yeah, so the verse that are relevant, I believe it's like Genesis or chapter 2, verse 9 through, I think it goes to like 17, and it starts with 9 saying God made all kinds of trees out of the ground, trees that are pleasing to the eye and good for food in the middle of the garden, where the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah, the reason I the tree of life, there's just really nothing said about it that I can recall. That's why I couldn't really answer you much on that I can remember. Does anybody else remember anything that they say more?
I kind of remember something of it, but to be honest, I'm not too familiar.
I think there's something there. Something there about
point,
Adam and Eve. They can't before they can lay hands on it.
Well, it was consumed by fire, like after after Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, and that's
part of my that's part of my question is that if they didn't eat from the tree of knowledge, right? If Satan, or I don't know, Satan, if the serpent hadn't
I think I know where you're going at, because if they would have, then they would have been. If they would have eat from that, tree, they would be in an eternal state of sinning. You know what I mean? And God didn't want them to be in that. He wanted them to be able to have, because they would have been stuck at that point. You know what I mean? They wouldn't.
Okay, so they would have had either an eternal state of sinning,
right?
Or if they ate of the tree of good and knowledge.
Looking at the scripture, go ahead. From memory.
Okay, if they hadn't eaten of the tree of knowledge, what would have happened to them?
I do not know. Good question. I'll have to look into that. I'm gonna have to study.
They would have been dumb and happy for the rest of their days.
Well, no. My point is that if they hadn't have been tempted and they didn't eat from that tree, they would have lived. They would have been eternal.
Well, no,
there would have been.
Well, no, I disagree on that point. I disagree on that point, though, because it seems to be like
it's kind of merciful that God kicked us out, because you'd had eternal life, but then you've been living in an imperfect world. You know what I mean? Imagine living in an eternally evil. You wouldn't want to do that.
And it seems like they would have.
Okay.
It seems like they would have died either way.
Well, it seems
death
like
means something different in Christianity.
It seems in Christianity there's a whole lot that falls onto the fall of man. So you have young Earth creationists who think that dinosaurs live with man. You have young Earth creationists who think the megalodon ate seaweed up until the fall of man, and then after they became carnivores. So, I mean, that takes some type of evolutionary mechanism to do that. We don't know what would do that. We don't know what would turn a plant before the fall of man into a carnivorous plant after the fall of man.
I can't hear you. You're gonna have to open the door.
Put your mic on mute, son.
John, mute him real quick, please.
What card?
Leo, mute. There you go.
Sorry.
I think we kind of like, when when we ate from this tree a lot, the forbidden fruit, we kind of like messed up, short circuit God's plan for our plan for knowledge. I would say.
Wait a minute. How do you short circuit God's plan?
I was actually going to ask that question. That's specifically why I came onto the stream, because this whole eating from the tree of good and evil, that's a complete setup, and I don't know how you get around that.
Well, that's what I don't understand is if they didn't eat from it.
Well, they wanted to know everything right away, but they didn't. You know what I mean? God didn't want them to. That's not the way God intended for them to learn everything from right away. You know what I mean?
Well, he obviously knew what was going to happen, so he had.
Of course, he knew what would happen.
Yeah, right. So he knew that we were going to, humans in general, were going to fail. So he set us up to fail, and then went ahead and punished us for doing exactly what he knew that we were going to do. So that.
Well, he also provided a sacrifice in the very beginning of Genesis, like when he slain the animal, and that's foreshadowed right there. Is the sacrifice of
that's not pretty sociopathic to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if he provides you the sacrifice right now, you're in the age of grace. You just freely receive the gift. And I mean,
I believe what Mr. Batman
would he set us up for.
If I believe what Mr. Batman said, an all eternal, all
but how would you know evil?
Timeless, not functional, no nothing, but all loving, personal being needs a blood sacrifice? Why would
you have to kind of go through evil go through calamity to even to know what good really is? You know what I mean? What would you contrast it?
Well, that's my point.
Wait. Do I have to kill somebody to know that killing somebody is a bad thing?
Well,
by that logic, I mean.
If you've never knew what killing was, I mean, maybe.
But I mean, that seems to be kind of okay.
So
Like,
evil
hold on.
exists. Wait a
John.
minute. Evil exists for contrast. Then is that what you're saying? Go ahead, Immutable.
Yeah, but it says that God was with them pretty much constantly, like in the Garden of Eden. So they would have known good just because of the fact that God was there. There would have been no reason for them to know of evil or its presence.
Well, I think he might have.
God specifically wanted to introduce into the world.
Yeah. He did come and fellowship with them. I don't know if he was 100% always there with them. I don't know whether the Bible says that or not.
This just makes it seem like prior to eating the apple, there was a lot of really long morning meetings. Like every morning. He's like, don't hit Eve in the head with a rock. Don't hold her head underwater. Don't do all these things, right? Eve, don't push him into this ditch over here. You know what I mean? Like
Sounds like daily life with a toddler.
Yeah.
Well, my point is, if there is a tree of knowledge, that means they didn't have any. How would they know what was good or bad? How would they know what was bad?
Well, in a further way of like supporting that, though, right, is that I believe in the Bible, like it says that Adam was taught essentially like how to tend for the Garden of Eden before, everything went to shit, more or less. And
I'm gonna quote one the fuck out of you now, Immutable. I'm gonna cut that little blurb out where you're saying I believe the Bible.
All right.
Well, so how much knowledge did he have before they ate?
God.
Well, Chris, I mean, I know it sounds like we're ganging up on you, but I'm not. But let me ask you this: if I give you poison, and I know you're going to accept the poison, but then I provide you a cure, an antidote, doesn't that still kind of make me the bad guy?
Makes you a sadist.
You say it again. You gave me poison.
Okay,
but then you gave me the antidote.
Yeah, if I give you poison, and I know beforehand that you're going to accept my poison, but I also give you the cure, doesn't that kind of make me sadistic?
Well, not in the way if that's the way that God's going to make you into a being, a live human being. You know what I mean? Someone that can actually know something.
But if he's God, though, wouldn't he be able to do that in the first place? Just make us how he wanted us to be?
Well, I mean, God, it's God. He can do it the way he wants to do it. He could have probably made us several ways if he wanted to.
Okay,
yeah.
But to correct Gur's situation, though, I mean, you wouldn't know it's poison. I mean, Adam and Eve seem to only know, like, what was to be done by virtue of God telling them and instructing them, like, how to do certain things. Like, they didn't have knowledge of good and evil, like, of what things would be considered wrong or right. That's why knowledge of good and evil exists.
Otherwise, there wouldn't be a tree for it.
Yeah, and by that logic as well, I mean, how do you determine like the
oh my god,
if that a person is good or evil if the person doesn't even know what good or evil is and can't make a proper judgment on that?
Well, I mean, yeah, they were tricked into that. You know what I'm saying? By Satan.
But how can you say they were tricked? Because they don't know that it's bad to do that, right? They don't know. They would have to have some knowledge of good and evil, or good and what's right and wrong, to even be able to follow God's commandment to not eat.
God asked them to do. He asked them not to eat from that tree. Okay,
right? Because
they didn't know. They didn't know why it was bad or good.
Well, wait a minute. Wait.
It wasn't the devil.
No, hold on. Wait. All right. So, do you have any children, Chris?
My brother passed away. I raised two of his daughters. I have two goddaughters. Yes.
So, what happens most of the time when you tell a child, "Don't do that"?
Well, I mean, yeah, they like my brother. My mom would tell him to put his hand on that stove eye, and of course, he had to put his hand on the stove eye to see what it did. He didn't know what was going to happen when he put his hand on there. She told him not to do it. And he didn't know if something good was going to happen, bad was going to happen. He just was curious.
Yep. And that's the same situation it would have been back then, the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve.
That would have been I would say. Then Christ is the. Go ahead.
This is just something stupid, Chris, and this is just off the top of my head because I'm a stoner and I love being a stoner. But anyways, I come off of tangents, right? So when I think about shit, and I've thought about this shit for my entire life because I grew up in a North American Baptist church and family, but I don't really ever think I was a Christian. I never got it, never prayed. I just don't understand it. It never jived with me because I have too many questions that were unanswered. And two of them were this on the Garden of Eden. Okay. Does Moses have a sense of humor to the fact that he wrote that Adam could hide from God and God actually had to try to find him in the garden?
No, God knew that. That was just rhetorical, like, you know, God knew.
So that they were being funny? That
no,
was
not
like
being
jokes?
funny, just like, you know.
I would agree that it was rhetorical. I'll give you that. I feel like that's just God kind of just funning around.
You know, just saying, you know, I mean, like, why are you hiding? Like, do you know why you're hiding? You know what I mean? Because
I think
that's not
it's
really how it's written,
disobeyed.
but
Adam
okay.
disobeyed, but he might not necessarily knew what the consequences was. You know what I mean? But the good thing is that, you know, Jesus kind of has reversed, you know, Adam's disobedience, and if you accept his salvation and his gift, we're gonna return to Eden in a way. You know what I'm saying?
Immutable, you were trying to get in there. Go ahead.
Yeah,
That's
I
not
think
how I take it.
Well, hold on, Maynard. Immutable was trying to get in there a minute ago. Go ahead, Immutable.
But I mean, I think the point of, like, it says, like, Adam hid, you know, from God. I mean, obviously it's not going to work.
Yeah, because after they ate that fruit, then all of a sudden that they were aware. You know what I mean? They got hard.
But I mean, I think that's the point, right? I mean, it kind of harps back to the previous conversation, like we were doing real quick, which is that it seems like after Adam ate from the fruit, like, it's very clear, like, that he's showing signs, like, that what he knew he did was incorrect, like, that there's some ability for him to, like, moralize and understand, like, values of moral actions. Whereas
after he ate the fruit, something maybe in the fruit somehow opened his eyes. You know what I mean?
That fruit bestowed knowledge of good and evil unto him, just like the fruit of life would have granted him immortality.
Right. I would probably agree with that.
But I mean, even so, I mean, it seems that if you're taking a God's eye view of the perspective, right?
Okay.
It doesn't seem to make sense to tell somebody, don't do something if they don't have, like, the proper knowledge to be able to discern if that thing is good or bad, right?
And here's the weird.
Didn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it would be like asking me it'd be like me asking a kindergartner to describe what's an electric field. They don't have the knowledge yet to describe. They don't have, like, the intellectual capacity yet to describe what that is.
Well, I don't believe it, because if they ate from the tree of knowledge, why didn't they just go back over and then eat from the tree of eternal life?
Because God didn't let them do that. Because if they did, then
I thought they had free will.
They had free will, but God did not allow them to do that. You know what I mean?
Can I ask a question? That's reversing. Hold on. There's a better objection to that, and that's, why didn't Adam and Eve eat from the tree of life first, and then eat from the tree of knowledge?
No, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know that I have the answer to that.
Look, can I ask a question?
Can I ask my question now?
Sure.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Leo.
Did Adam and Eve? I'm assuming that you believe in a literal Adam and Eve. I don't know if you really do. If you don't, let me know, because then the question's pointless.
Yeah, I do believe it was.
Did Adam and Eve have knowledge of good and evil?
Adam and Eve. I mean, mitochondrial Eve. Excuse me.
Well, Leo, you were gone for a while. We already totally went over that.
Yeah, we went over that. We can go back.
Yeah, I still, but I didn't hear it, so I still want to know how he answers the question. Did Adam and Eve have knowledge of good and evil prior to eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil?
hang on before you answer that, Chris. Leo, we're going to move on, because you can go back and watch that portion of the video when you get a chance, but we're not going to rehash everything we just talked about for the last 15 minutes. I do apologize.
Well, it's a simple question. It's really just a yes or no.
Well, when that question was asked the first time, it wasn't a simple question. The conversation went on for 15 or 20 minutes. So,
well, I'm not asking for it. I'm just asking for a yes or no, because it literally is. It's either yes or it's no. There is no in between.
What was your question, Ian? I missed it.
Did Adam and Eve have knowledge of good and evil prior to eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil?
They wouldn't have had knowledge of good and evil, no.
Okay, great. That's all I wanted to know, because I think everybody can deductively infer the obvious contradiction there. I don't need to point it out.
Well, we went over that, not necessarily.
Look, here's a question I want to ask. Kind of a little bit of a different subject, but Chris, does God lie?
No, God by his nature.
You kind of roboted on me there.
No, God would not lie. By his nature, he would not lie. He would not contradict himself.
Let me
God
ask
does
you
not
this.
contradict himself.
Okay, no, that's good. Now let me ask you this second question. So, when God told Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac, full well knowing ahead of time he was not going to make Abraham go through with it, was that not a lie?
No. I don't say
How is it not a lie?
How is it a lie?
Because he told Abraham, I want you to sacrifice your son Isaac. And he knew at the time when he told Abraham to do that he was not going to have Abraham go through with sacrifice.
He was testing his faith.
Okay. Wait. I'll grant that premise.
He's not lying to us.
Wait a minute. Wait. All right, look, I'll grant that premise. He was testing Abraham's faith. But how is it not a lie? He said he wanted Abraham to do something that he, in fact, was not going to have Abraham do. That is the definition of a lie.
He asked Abraham to do something, okay?
Right.
And to see what Abraham's reaction, what his faith was, okay? He tested his faith, and knowing full well what his intentions were, and that he was going to provide the ram for the sacrifice. And I don't see how that would be a lie. I just don't see the contradiction.
I don't understand how you can't see that it's a lie. He told a mistruth to Abraham. That is a lie.
It being what's the lie? What's the lie?
The lie is, I want you to sacrifice your son, and at the last second, psych, you don't really have to do it. That's a lie.
So I guess the thing is that I don't think it was a demandment of Abraham. I think in that case, God just wanted to see, okay, will he go through with it? Is he truly a disciple of?
Yeah. There's other.
But that also raises another question, though. That raises another important question, though. Is God all-knowing?
Yeah, and
God know everything.
And here's the thing, man. That's what's hard to understand. He's outside of around. Okay, to try to get God is incomprehensible, indescribable. So for us to sit here and try to put God in our pockets would be impossible. I believe
it's just basic, though. If God is all-knowing, God doesn't need to test Abraham in the first place because he already knows what the outcome's going to be.
He may not
and
need
if he doesn't know the outcome, then he's not all-knowing.
He could go about things several different ways. I believe if they would have accepted Jesus when he first come, they might have had a different plan. And how that's possible. I don't know how it's possible, but through God, all things are possible. So,
but in that case, though, would you not consider? In that case, though, would you not consider that action to be, I don't know, kind of malicious? It'd be like me telling a person.
No, I mean, I can envision myself being God, but
but I mean, if you think about it, right? If you're in put yourself in Abraham's shoes for a second, right? You're being told by somebody, okay.
He was told, but see, you have to understand.
Hold on, let him finish the question, Chris. Let him finish his statement, then you can respond. Go ahead, Immutable.
You've told somebody, from Abraham's perspective, you've been told, the way you're going to show that you are truly loyal to me is by sacrificing, your flesh and blood, right? Your son. But in reality, full well that that's not actually going to happen. You know that this person will be obedient to you and that the last minute you're going to pull out on it.
What you're missing is that God previously told him that his son Isaac would be the father of many nations. So if he had faith in him, then he would know that somehow God was going to raise him. That's foreshadowing to Christ being raised up. That's why he's a type of Christ.
But I don't see why it's necessary. If God knew that,
just because you don't see why it's necessary doesn't mean God lied, though. You know what I mean?
No, but okay.
No, it does mean he lied.
If God told Abraham, you will bear children, and they will be, like the leaders of these nations, and then you say, "Okay, go kill your son." Doesn't that mean to say this nation will fall, or that maybe change of heart, or what?
It's just means that sometimes we don't understand God's plan, and but you still have to have faith. That's where faith comes in.
Well,
it's not a cop out. I mean,
Doesn't make sense,
one of the overarching themes in the Bible is faith. But the only way to please God is through faith. You know what I mean?
I have a question on
Chris,
the whole all-knowing thing when I get a chance.
But Chris, it also says, I believe it's 2 Thessalonians, that God will send them strong delusions so that they will believe a lie. I mean, that's New Testament. That's God saying that He will send lies, so people send delusions so that people will believe lies.
To the nation of Israel, is that what you're referring to?
I think it's 2 Thessalonians 2:11 or something like this.
Let me read the passage. I always like to, when somebody brings something up, it'd be better just to give me the passage so I can look. So I don't.
No, I understand.
Well, go ahead, Leo.
So, as to God's omniscience or Him knowing everything, Chris, is it possible for God to know both the position and the momentum of an electron simultaneously?
Oh God.
Say it again.
Is it possible for God to know both the position and the momentum of an electron simultaneously?
I would think so. I mean,
how?
He's not an expert in quantum.
Yeah, that's
I know, but it's a good question because
even now,
it's not
like
logically impossible to know that, and you'll often get like, well, can God lift a rock so big or can God make a rock so big he can't lift it, which creates all sort of contradictions when it comes to being all powerful that don't really negate being all powerful, and you can do the same for all knowing. But this is not logically contradictory. Technically, there is no logical contradiction knowing both of those, but there are reasons why you can't know both of those, and they have to do with how you observe something. If you're observing where an electron is at, there's no way to know how fast it's going.
The short answer to that is you can't know them in the sense that you can know it with infinite precision, both quantities simultaneously.
Which would mean that God can't be all-knowing.
He would know as much about the system as is possible to know.
Yeah, which means he's not all-knowing.
Okay, if there's a maximal amount of information like that can be known about a system and you have that knowledge, right? That would be knowing all of the information in that system.
No. The reason we can't know position and momentum has to do with the mathematical structure of how we define position and momentum.
Well, I mean, and good point though it may be. I think it's beyond. You're asking a question that's not in Chris's wheelhouse. It's certainly not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I maybe having a hard time even understanding that question. To be honest.
Yeah.
Can I ask one question, John?
Yeah, go ahead, Maynard.
All right, Chris, just real quick. This is a stoner question. It's easy. It's an opinion question. Answer it, how you like. But Genesis said that God put a cherubim with a flaming sword to once they kicked Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden. Do you follow that? Am I correct, or I don't want to straw man you on that?
You're fine. I got a call that came in. I was texting. I apologize. Go ahead and say it again.
When God kicked Adam and Eve out of the garden, He put a cherubim with a flaming sword to guard the entrance back into that garden.
So they couldn't eat from the tree of life, because if they did, they would be living in eternally with evil present, and which would be I wouldn't want to live in a world where evil was eternally present. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That's not part of my question anyways. So do you think that cherubim's still standing there holding that flaming sword, or do you think God took him up? Or if we find the Garden of Eden, are we going to find a cherubim standing there branding a flaming sword still?
I have no idea.
Guarding us from the Garden of Eden?
I don't know how I would know that either.
It's an opinion. I said before, opinion or a hypothetical, however you want to take it.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
And
is the Garden of Eden on Earth?
Originally.
So wait, if it was originally on Earth, it's not still.
There's
on
an
Earth
area.
now?
There's an area, but it's no longer the Garden of Eden. Of course, I mean it's
underneath the Arabian Sea.
Right.
If we were to go underneath the Arabian Sea, would we see an angel there with a sword that's on fire?
That's what I think from what I read.
I would have to read what passage. That's what I'm asking. What passage you talking about?
I don't
Do
know
you
the
really
passage,
not know
but I know the Bible says
Genesis?
it.
Yeah, I know Genesis, but I'm saying like, I mean, you're
Never
asking me a hypothetical question on a verse. I like to have the verse handy. It's just
Well,
My
Chris,
question actually wasn't
I mean,
hypothetical.
Kevin Shay, something. I don't know every. I don't have every quote of the Bible memorized. You know what I mean?
Chris, it's 2 Thessalonians 2:11. It says, and I quote, "And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie." So in this verse, at least, God is sending a delusion so that people will believe lies. Again, the 2 Thessalonians 2:11.
Yeah, and I would have to look back at the word that where the word says lie and look into the Greek see what the word actually says. Make sure it's the lie like we're thinking lie.
No, I understand.
So that's what I'm saying. Some of these questions, they're really what you're asking me is like one thing I'd like to just almost like a whole stream on. You know what I mean?
Right.
Look, and we would like pull it up, and look into it. And
Hey, real quick, I want to jump in here and I want to thank Mindy for coming on. I see she popped out, and I just want to mention that on November 15th, Mindy will be our guest on the Apostate Alliance.
Can I thank Chris for coming into the Lions Den, man?
No problem. And I'll say one thing. There's
man.
a lot of things. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you were done. Apologize. Go ahead, Maynard.
No, I just wanted to give you props, man. I mean, everybody's coming at you. I have a shitload of questions. I can sit here and fucking rapid fire. You know
I have a ton of questions.
And
too. I love to get them answered one day. But
Well,
they're not all necessarily theologian questions.
Wait a minute. Just to answer one question I know you have, Chris. Yes, we do eat babies.
And they are delicious.
I'm a hunter and a fisherman, man. I eat roe. You bring it, I'll eat it.
Yeah, and the reason like I joined these streams too, I know like yesterday Nathan Artwork was saying I was flip flopping. I'm one way to another stream. I'm not. You know what I mean? I'll come over here, and I'm friendly with Knock because I'm respectful of his channel. Me and Knock have gone at it several times and praise his channel. We go at it, but we're still respectful of each other, and I'm going to respect somebody's stream regardless. You know what I mean?
Well, I think I speak for everybody that's here right now. Mad props to you, dude. I mean, because do you think and I hate to mention his name again, but do you think Smokey could come into a room like this and take on, the questions from, 5 atheists, 6 atheists that were in here at one point?
Without resorting to name calling.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to say that if I'm not sure about something, I'm not afraid to say I'm not sure, then I'll get back to you and I'll look. And I'm not looking like for answers in Genesis or anything. I'll look to study it myself and then I'll pray on it and I'll see.
That's
what I come up with.
respectable.
Yeah. Because I can't, there's a lot of things that God doesn't necessarily reveal. And we talked about this in a stream. I don't know if it was last night or the other night that it was in my stream. I did one on typology. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I asked you, Chris,
and,
about
I said,
the
I've got questions for God that I'm
with the flaming sword. That was just an opinion question. There's no way to fucking know theologically if he's still there. You know what I mean?
I would say that no. You know what I mean? There's no cherubim there now.
Well, Chris, you've handled yourself well, and I just
Bravo.
like John said, I got to give you props.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah.
You're in the Lions Den, but you're not like, screw you guys, blah 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 blah.
Screw you guys.
I'm going home.
I mean, you can. There's a plethora of tough questions you can put to Christians. Like last night, we were talking about the problem of evil and whatever. There's books written on it. You know what I mean? And but I'm not God, and none of us can even imagine having when the Bible says He's incomprehensible, indescribable, and we just cannot know Him, and His ways are higher than our ways, and like He has. It'd be like this. You know what I mean? Have you ever thought? When you were younger, did any of y'all ever read the Choose Your Own Adventure books?
The what books? I'm sorry.
What? Choose Your Own Adventure.
Choose Your Own Adventure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you read the book and sometimes you get.
I know what you're talking about.
Go to this page and then
flip right for this path, flip left.
Right. And so God could be the author of the book and everything like that, but you still got to go inside it and make your choices. You know what I mean? So,
I got to tell you,
how we have free will.
Chris, I think that's like a perfect analogy for the Bible, but maybe not for the reasons you think. Because you can go.
Can I get a Maynard save? Shut the fuck up,
go into the
please, John.
What?
I'm
What?
lost.
Can I get a Maynard save? Shut the fuck up, please.
Oh yeah, Quentin, shut the fuck up.
Quentin, gosh.
But yeah, you can take the Bible, which is very very broadly written and open to interpretation, and you can choose your own adventure and make it say whatever you want.
Yeah, I was just saying choose your own adventure, and the fact that he could maybe that's not a perfect analogy, but I mean it's very imperfect. But he could be the author and know the beginning to the end, but we're inside of it, and then we're still going to have free will, because that's a big question of mine. How do we have free will? And but because I'm not a Calvinist, you know what I mean. So I don't believe God preordained everything. So that would be a question. But somehow God's been able to do it and engineer it, and you still have free will. Because I if not, it's an illusion. I appear to have free will. Do you not? Do you think you have free will? I would ask you guys that.
It feels like I do, but I don't think that I do.
Peace out, Maynard.
That's a tough question. I would make it, because I could go back with some tough questions for you guys, but I don't.
I think it depends on how you define free will.
I enjoy those.
Love y'all. I got some
Peace
free
out.
will. I'm about to go smoke some weed. Love everybody. Have a great
Hey,
night.
Maynard, puff twice for me, buddy.
Yeah,
Smoke
puff like
some
10 times
weed
for
all
me.
day.
I knew you were going to say that. No, that's Calvin.
Hey, we'll get on that, because I do love to talk about Christianity and fucking weed, bro.
The first thing God did.
marijuana was a plant present in the Garden of Eden. So
I don't know.
it had
that
to be.
God did
smoking
was outlaw
marijuana is
plant.
wrong.
All
I think go ahead.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that was the tree of life. It was marijuana.
Yeah, I don't necessarily
Well,
know that I would say if you smoke weed, it's necessarily wrong. I would, if you're doing something to me, and even it's when you do something to like maybe I don't know, maybe like drinking, when it becomes a problem, you're drinking, you're getting plastered. You know what I mean?
Hey, we're not talking about knock here.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
If it's obviously detrimental to your life, then I would say that's wrong, because it's causing you problems in your life.
Well, the first thing God did was outlaw a plant, if you think about it.
Yeah. Well,
he banned a tree.
He was like,
I don't know
"Fuck
why
this
he
tree."
created the tree if he didn't want Adam.
Yeah,
and Eve to
even
eat
though I
from it.
created this tree, look.
I don't know
tree.
why he created the tree if it was always going to be destroyed in the end.
But I did want to mention something. Like I said last night, I said even if I apostatized and I said, you know what, you got not you guys, but just say, let's say I decided that I no longer believe it. I can't for some reason in the Bible, which I've been for a long time, and I've had a lot of experience, personal experience, that I just couldn't go. I just couldn't deny it anymore. It's that real evident to me, but I still couldn't. Evolution still has so many problems, man, that I would have to believe in aliens. There's just no way.
Interested to hear those
Gradualism
problems.
for sure.
To hear those questions and problems.
Yeah, so would I.
Gradualism for sure cannot get it done, man. There's no way. Impossible.
Well,
Gradualism?
Gradualism, point mutations, slow change, like Darwin presented. I know it's changed the theory, but punctuated equilibrium. I mean, that's. Come on, man. You know what I mean?
Life has been evolving for 4 billion years.
And
So,
then we could go to the origins of abiogenesis too, and if you want sometime, but
Sure,
that's
but I
a
mean,
whole other topic.
With regard to gradualism and punctuated equilibrium, I mean that's just as simple as a statement as noticing that climates and
There's no empirical evidence for it.
change of time.
There's no empirical evidence for it. None.
Oh, there is
For
a
what?
frustrated atheist.
Wait, hold
in
on
this-
here. Empirical evidence for what?
And he's hungry.
Punctuated equilibrium. Where's your empirical
Oh,
evidence
okay.
for it?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Wait. Chris.
Yeah.
So now you're all into empirical evidence. I don't and I'm not trying to be a dick here, but most of what you believe in theologically is not based on empirical evidence.
Well, I'm just, there's a theory been put forth here. So I'm, we're on Earth. We're it's all we have are tools that we have, to investigate what we have right here. If you want to go outside the natural, that's fine. You guys can do that. And I have to go outside the natural to answer some things. So
We don't.
If you're not willing to do that, then you need to have a natural explanation. and you need to have empirical evidence for it.
Yeah, so the empirical evidence is that when we find specific strata and we notice that their descendants live in different strata, certain strata are very indicative of the type of environments that these specimens would have been living in. And quite clearly in the fossil record, you can notice that the composition of strata changes.
Can
Which
I
also
just say
that the ecosystems change as well?
I've been thinking about changing my YouTube channel to the Frustrated Angry Eating Atheist.
Yeah, man, whatever he's eating, I'm starving too. I was fixing to grab
Making
something
me
to eat
hungry.
dinner.
Look,
Yeah.
look, I'm eating from the tray at McDonald's that was given to me by the serpent of DoorDash.
There we go.
I like that serpent.
There we go.
Well, and I do want to, even though he's chewing madly, I do want to throw it over to Frustrated because we are going to end this in about 10 minutes. I'm fading fast.
Oh, shit.
And, Frustrated
Yeah.
just popped in, so I want to let him.
Not
get
even
it.
dimmer cloth, John.
Frustrated
What's that?
Atheist, what are you eating?
I said it's
Eating-
not even dimmer o'clock, John.
Yeah, I know.
I'm eating a double quarter pounder with cheese.
God, it looks
Hey,
freaking delicious.
my man.
It is.
No,
Real
Big
man.
Mac better.
Jesus Christ! Just now that you said double quarter pound with cheese, I can feel my heart slowing down just from hearing it.
Oh man.
And to
You
quote
know,
my favorite movie, you know what they call a double quarter pounder with cheese in Paris?
They call it a
Royale.
Royale with cheese.
yeah,
with cheese.
with cheese.
John Peterson, can I just say real quick? You probably get this a lot, but you sound just like BoJack Horseman, like the way you talk.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
I mean, that's not an insult by any means. It's one of my favorite animated TV series right now. But yeah,
Well, I mean, and
Christine.
interestingly enough, I am an animation.
oh,
Your voice does sound familiar from somewhere else, and I can't pin it. Maybe I'll have to check who that is.
back in the '90s, I was
Christine
in a
sounds like
famous
Peyton
TV
Manning.
show.
Yeah, you said that, and I asked somebody else. They said that too. So I mean, he's
You do,
he's
though.
a
You really
he's a
sound like
god.
Peyton Manning.
He's a little G god in here in East Tennessee. So I'll take that as a compliment.
No, Chris, though, I'll be honest. I like you. I mean, you're level-headed.
So do I.
You actually don't mind coming into a room full of a bunch of atheists. I mean, I got to give you props for that.
And thank you. And I like just to give props to somebody else. I mentioned him earlier is Org or Ogre. He's what I would call an honest atheist. I think you guys have been fair and honest too. So don't say I'm saying you guys aren't, but I'm just saying like he's
Well,
really
hey,
willing to. You got to be willing to step in somebody's worldview.
Well, I
You
mean,
know what
I'll
I
be
mean?
honest.
To
I've
ask
been
questions.
I was in a Smoky Saints live stream one time, which is
Mhm.
on my channel, and oh my god, like the amount of anger and just flat out hatred is like,
the amount of, like,
whoa.
vitriol that
There's a
man
lot of vitriol,
is,
yeah.
like, insane.
Yeah, I think what he would say is that you don't want to love, you don't want to let me say here, you don't want to call somebody to hell, so you're gonna, that would be his.
So
Yeah,
real quick,
I don't
real
want you to go to
quick.
hell, so let me just
Yeah.
insult you.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
not.
real quick,
I mean,
real
I'm not Smokey Saint. I'm not here defending.
Anyway,
Yeah.
real quick here, I just want to respond to Kathy. He's saying I sound like Hank Hill.
No.
But
no.
No, you
wait a
don't.
minute, wait. Bobby, if you weren't my son, I'd hug you.
That's only a thing.
And
See,
propane
Hank Hill-
accessories.
What,
Hill's voice-
Bobby?
Hank Hill's voice is a little bit higher. His is like, I'll tell you what, Bobby.
Yeah. Hey, Bobby.
Yeah. All right, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're all right. Oh, who'd we lose? We lost the Puffalopagus.
Ah.
Philophagus.
The snuffle puff a puff and pass.
Where does the Icky Tank have his baseball bat come from? I have to ask that because I always see.
Oh, because yeah,
Good
well,
question.
Here's a story on that real quick. Him and Knock were in a stream together. Somehow the subject of where people lived or whatever, and they were talking. I forget the exact subject, but at any rate, Smokey brought up this analogy of like, well, if that's true, like, what if I just hunt you down and hit you in the back of the head with a baseball bat? And Knock was like, bring it on, dude. Come on over with the baseball bat. Like,
Yeah. Oh, Smokey.
Yeah, always the subject always turns to Smokey for some reason. So look, I'm not in as bad a shape as Knock is. He's got all those health problems going on.
Allah bless him.
Yeah, but I am fading fast. As Immutable pointed out, it actually is not Boomer o'clock, but
Kind of is Boomer o'clock.
Oh, and here I am. I'm Shapolis on the camera. I never like being like that, but yeah, look at that head, man. Look at that head. No.
At least you got hair.
I don't know.
You're a nice
I don't know
guy.
if you can tell. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm only 30, and I have on top of my head is peppered with gray.
Oh yeah,
You look dirty, man. You look like you're in your mid-20s or something.
Me? True. Nah.
Did you just say 39?
No, I'm 30.
What
I
about
thought you said
the
30. I was like,
what about the pubic hair? Is that getting gray yet?
Nah, man. I mean,
I don't
he
know.
looks mid-20s.
All right, well, listen,
I'll go
guys.
gray from the balls up. So
I don't.
I'm
pay
gonna
attention
get
that
out
close
of
to my
here,
period.
but it's been fun. And obviously, I'll definitely be back. You guys are great, and Chris, I think you already left, but thank you for entertaining us, Satan worshippers. Y'all have a good one.
peace out.
Yeah, and again, let me just say, mad props to Chris Keith. He says he thanks us all for the talk, I mean, these are the kind of, because here's the thing. We can disagree fundamentally on a lot of different things and still have a pleasant conversation. I mean, and that's why I'm so down on, Christians that want to be pejorative, like the Neffys of the world, evolution. He has to be so petty that evolution isn't a thing. So I'm going to call it evolution.
Well, the Bible doesn't say anything about that, John. Evolutionists always want to sit there and say that it does, but it just doesn't. Okay.
The thing is with Neffy, and you got to understand this, is that he mocks anything he doesn't understand.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like any multisyllabic word is just forget about it. It ain't gonna happen. You might as well talk to a brick wall.
We're talking about a guy who doesn't know what an isotope is. Funnily enough, I never got to press him on that in our debate because he switched to pretty much talked about genes the whole time, which I was kind of surprised by. But he knew that I would stomp his ass if he tried to go down the route of the age of the Earth or talking about magnetic fields because in reference to the age of the Earth, because I've done that numerous times before.
It's funny because he likes to talk about translocation shit, and he sat there and cited a paper in one of his live streams where he's talking about translocation of genes. Whenever the paper he was talking about was actually translocation of certain species of birds.
Yep.
And I
that demonstrates
that fucking hilarious.
Yeah, that demonstrates that all they do is just look for any technical literature they can that has the buzzwords that they're looking for, and I'll cite it without even reading it and actually understanding what it says.
Yeah, even funnier.
That right there, you just described Standing for Truth game plan and every debate he's ever had. He finds a bunch of words, he doesn't really know what they mean, but he thinks it bolsters his argument, so he goes on and on and on and repeat.
No. I will give one thing to Standing for Truth. A lot of the times, whenever he's talking about certain things about when it comes to genes, he does know the words. He does know them enough to be able to combat your everyday run-of-the-mill atheist who may not know that much about genetics. However, when you put him up next to an actual geneticist or somebody at least who does follow along with genetics enough to know these words and know what the papers are saying, he'll fail every time.
Yeah.
But he does know some. He does know some of the shit he talks about.
Well, right, and we were making fun of him in a live chat, or he was, I think, in the room in the live chat when we were streaming, and then he shot at me, and I can't remember what the word was.
Australopithecine.
Yeah. Oh, well, how do you say this, John? Like, and here's the thing. I don't know about that stuff. I don't have to know about that stuff because I have a lot of friends that know about that stuff whom I trust. And
Well, it doesn't matter. The thing is he wants to go off of pronunciation. I'm from Texas, and around here, instead of saying fire, we say far. I mean, that doesn't mean we're fucking ignorant.
Right,
that just means that we have different ways of pronouncing.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Every human being ever was ignorant. on something, because nobody can know everything.
That's exactly the thing, right? I mean, nobody can know every topic perfectly. And that's another reason why Nephilim is just so great. Because he claims to understand physics, he claims to understand genetics, he claims to understand proteomics, he claims to understand cosmology, he claims to understand all sorts of stuff. And it's like...
You talk about Nephi?
Yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is, ignorance is not stupidity.
I remember one time... you go finish what you were saying.
No, ignorance isn't stupidity, but bolstering your ignorance, right? Saying like, oh, this is how things really are. Like, actual scientists are like fucking clueless on this. Like, and just professing your ignorance as being fact is just stupid.
All right, so we're going to get out of here. I'm going to give everybody a last word, and please tell us anything you think we need to know about you. We'll start with Immutable, and I know that you've been doing a lot with Speed lately, but
yeah. So me and Speed, the past 2 days have gone over David P. Neff's debate with Smokey Saint, particularly Smokey's intro and his defense and critique of methodological naturalism. If you want to know just how adept Smokey is at philosophy, check out those videos. It's enormously entertaining.
And I was there with them today, and that was great. The Nephi, not the Nephi thing, the Smokey thing, because he proved once and for all that it's bullshit, that he knows anything about philosophy. And then there's the second half of that stream from today that was just fucking great. I don't know if you saw it, Immutable. You had to leave there, but Jay shared a TOG stream where Doubting Thomas was there trolling Smokey and just pushing every one of his buttons.
Yeah, the thing is, I love watching people like trigger Smokey, especially drag or people like that, because there's a particular art when it comes to like understanding Smokey's personality and understanding what type of things like that will just fly right by him, and what kind of people ignore.
And that's what that whole exchange was between him and Doubting. Doubting played Smokey like a fucking virtuoso, man. It was just beautiful, dude.
Jen Aldridge lives rent free in Smokey's head.
Of course, yeah.
Jen Aldridge.
Yeah.
Dragon Queen, whatever you know.
No, I know her. I know
at least one part of Jen Aldridge does.
Do what?
At least
or
one
some parts.
Right.
Some parts.
Some parts of Jen Aldridge live rent free in Smokey's head, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
he'll end up pulling a tube in on us at some point.
Keith, and then we'll give Frustrated Atheist his final words.
Well, I don't have anything going on, so I'm just going to give you a little fun fact about the town I live in. It's Alvin, Texas, and we have a bank here that has alligators as pets.
Wow.
What? Wow.
That sounds more like a
That's the most
Florida
redneck thing I've heard today. Thank you.
Are they like the guards for the bank?
If you default on loans, you tend to visit them. No, I'm kidding. But no, they just what happened. The way it started was back in the 60s. Some guy from gave them 3 alligator baby alligators as just kind of like a joke for them to put in their fish aquarium thing that they have that's right up front. And they actually did, and they ended up eating all the fish. And so they're now like on their 3rd or 4th generations of alligators that they get from the alligator farms.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Oh,
That's
now, like,
a staple.
Frustrated, could you just do me one favor, though? And is there any possible way you could chew more while you're talking?
Of course.
Just fucking.
Could you be louder, please?
Leo Filius.
Stay tuned. I'm getting a hold this Saturday. I am meeting with a particular individual who uses Google Meets and does OBS Studio, the same setup I'm going to be doing. He's going to teach me some of the ropes on that, and then I will be having a sit down with MathPig and a few others, learning more about specifically OBS Studios and how to use that. And then I will be having a sit down with another friend of mine the friend who I actually purchased the MacBook from, he's going to walk me through iMovie because he pretty much told me that I don't really need any other editing software for making high quality YouTube videos. iMovie has all the tools and there's no need to spend the money to buy anything else. So he's going to walk me on how to edit videos and stuff like that. After all that's done, hopefully by the time that's all done, I have somebody who either can or has made an intro, preferably an intro and an outro. But if I can only get an intro at this point, that'd be great for my channel, because I don't want to just go from black screen to nothing, or from black screen or nothing to me being there at the beginning of every video, because it's going to look really, really tacky. And I hate it when things look tacky. So feel free to subscribe, and hopefully by the end of this month I can have content out. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I would really, really like it to be that way. I just don't know. It just depends on how everything plays out. But yes, the content is going to be coming on my channel very, very soon.
Well, I mean, if you don't like things that look tacky, you better do something about that haircut, dude.
I can't.
I'm just fucking with you, dude.
I would say that if you want somebody for intros, if you look at my more recent videos that I have on my channel, that whenever I was doing videos, the guy who did that, it's a very good intro maker. And I can get you in contact with him.
Okay, I was about to say, and how would I go about contacting this person?
He's on Twitter. He goes by his name is Peter. Yeah, on the Twitter.
Goes by,
his name is Peter. His name is Peter, but he goes by Gonna Go For It.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I know that guy.
I'm gonna go for it. Yeah, I know that on him on Twitter.
Yeah.
So, all right, folks, we're gonna get out of here. I can't wait for Leo's content. Because I think he's going to be a success in that. We will definitely link to his content when he gets it out. Thanks to everybody that showed up tonight. Thanks to everybody that was in the live chat. As we say here, be the conversation. And just as a reminder to end the broadcast, I am going to play the bumper from the Apostate Alliance. Please join us on Sundays for the Apostate Alliance. This week we will be talking to Little Devil, and she is an ex-Muslim. And as I stated earlier, Mindy, Sassy Heathen, will be our guest on the 15th of October. So everybody have a good night. Out.